Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome, my friends. Thank you so much for joining us today. Alex Jones coming to you from the road in Houston, Texas. And then I prepare to make my way to Florida to visit one of our great affiliates, 810, there in Orlando, Florida, where I'll be speaking next Sunday, breaking down my blueprint to defeat the New World Order. I want to thank all of the amazing listeners that came out to the sold-out capacity crowd in Dallas, Texas, at the Lakewood Theater. Always humbling, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that coming up later in the transmission. Well, more than a little bit. I can't tell you how many active-duty military were there and how many police were there, including several Dallas police detectives that I ran into. And the fact that no one is buying that Ron Paul isn't really the front runner. Who's seen a Mitt Romney or Newt Gingrich sticker? Who's seen a Santorum sticker? And why does Ron Paul get 70+% of all the military donations? You see, where they can't cheat him with straw polls and other systems that are fair, he wins. Or donations, he wins. The big rich guys, the big establishment types like Obama and, of course, Mittens Romney. You look at who gives them money. Number one, it's Goldman Sachs. Number two, J.P. Morgan. Number three, Citibank. Number four, Bank of America. And it's the same order and the same list. Kind of like the nightly news. It's the same sponsors. Monsanto, Archer Daniels Midland Company, Eli Lilly, Prozac pushers, ads about how your kids need to be on Ritalin and Adderall. The order has taken over our society. Now, we're going to have for an hour and a half coming up today, Matthew Stein joining us. I had him on with us a few weeks ago for just an hour, and he is a industrial design engineer from MIT. And separately, everything he's talking about, I've separately researched. And I'm not saying, ooh, I'm smart. I've researched what he's saying. I can just confirm everything he's saying is accurate from my own research and then it even to a higher level of understanding. I'm just saying what this guy is talking about is real and is bona. And, of course, he's a best-selling author. We're going to talk about both of those books that getting into what's facing our society. When Disaster Strikes, a comprehensive guide for emergency planning and crisis survival. And, of course, we'll also get into his other book. Both of his books are available right now at Infowars.com. They're so good and so informative that I decided to carry both of his books at Infowars.com. That way you can get the latest up-to-date information when technology fails and when disaster strikes, and also support our transmission, which we couldn't do without you. That said, it's really weird how sometimes when you've got a high fever, it almost gives you more clarity and focus. And then when you come down off of being sick, it's almost like a reset. I haven't had a stomach bug or any type of real illness like that other than in about 3 years. And my wife got sick when we got to Dallas, and then I got sick really during my speech. I knew I didn't feel good in Dallas. And then when I got back to hell, now we're and I basically sweated it out last night and broke my 102.5, 103 fever. And I quite frankly feel like I just fought 10 rounds in a boxing match, but I feel really good at the same time. And I just kept waking up all last night with that high fever, thinking about how real all this is and how incredible reality is compared to fiction, and the fact that we're all alive now and we have a chance now now to take action, and just how in the now all this information is. We'll be right back. Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. I'm looking for people that have the wisdom to spot savings, opportunity, and recognize risk. Saving means to make money. The Cal Ben Pure Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated and twice as good as what you're using now. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous toxic detergents that give you rashes, itching sores, and deteriorating clothing called lint. If you want something better, if you want something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before. Getting a free catalog is easy by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. Take charge of your health now by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even if I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com. I've been telling you about eFoods Direct for a while now. Here are my top 10 reasons to stock up on food from eFoods Direct. Number 10, the food I get from eFoods Direct tastes great. Number 9, the eFoods meals are easy to prepare. 8, eFoods Direct delivers the food right to my front door. 7, most of these meals cost less than $2. 6, with their large variety, I can eat it every day. 5, I always have access to high quality and delicious food. Number 4, eFoods products don't spoil, so I never waste any food. 3, eFoods uses only safe, healthy ingredients. Number 2, I have my own food supply and don't depend on the grocery store. And the number 1 reason I promote eFoods Direct is they build special offers just for my listeners. Folks, don't wait. Get prepared now. We all need to be self-sufficient. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 and ask for the Alex Jones special. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 or efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Listening all across the United States and worldwide, and to all the ships at sea. We are live. It is the 21st day of February 2012 on this Tuesday. I am coming to you from Houston, Texas, and then I'll be on the road live here on the radio / video at prisonplanet.tv throughout the week. And we've got all the rest of our great crew, from Darren McBreen to Paul Watson to Rob Dew to Aaron Dykes, doing the nightly news. And I've got a whole bunch of videos and reports I've shot on the ground that I'll also be uploading to our studios. We'll have those as part of the nightly news and the radio show. You know, I could just upload them now from my iPhone, but then I have to do that in low-res quality. And people are like, hey, how come this video isn't super high-res when you're on the road? Well, because I've then got to put it onto a laptop, and then I've got to sit there for 5 hours waiting for it to upload, even if the connections are, quote, okay. And I've got a bunch of video, and so I am now basically debating on air in front of people how I'm going to file these reports. But we got a lot of interesting stuff, very informative stuff for you as well. First off, we do have Matt Stein, who is a design engineer, MIT, best-selling author, joining us for an hour and a half. coming up at the start of the next hour. He was on with us a few weeks ago, and he was breaking down the fact that when technology fails, when we're so dependent on technology, it can cause serious problems for a society, including complete collapse of our industrial system. And that dovetails with all the fear-mongering that the government's involved in. But the government is just using that as a pretext to take our liberties. They're not actually trying to set up an infrastructure that protects against that. Government and major corporations have been building their own secretive and private infrastructures, bunkers, you name it, while simultaneously demonizing those of us that do get prepared. So the establishment is digging in against I'm attacking anyone who tries to get prepared on their own right. Now, I want to get into the Iran situation, and we've been living with this threat, this intensifying threat for years now. And at a subconscious level, we all tend to just get the idea that it's a foregone conclusion, so hurry up and get it over with. Exactly what the globalists are counting on. Time and time again, they've said attacks on Iran are imminent. The Israeli president has said it. Our Pentagon has talked about it. It's been openly discussed. There is a low-intensity conflict or terror attacks going on inside Iran being carried out by the United States, Israel, England, and NATO on a weekly basis that is admitted. We would cover this 5 years ago and be called conspiracy theorists. We were just reading a White House press release. See, the White House, to have the Pentagon follow orders, a lot of times has to put something out public to say, see, we're on the news saying torture's good, like Rumsfeld did 8 years ago. You know, take the gloves off. Yeah, so what? Enhanced interrogation. Or the military and others won't follow the orders. Or, hey, the military is speaking out against the fact that they're ordered to grow opium in Afghanistan. Well, as you know, 2 years ago, they just started having newscasts everywhere saying, yeah, the troops grow the opium. It's no big deal. They have to hide it in plain view to pretty much get people to accept it. And the same thing's happening with preemptive war. Dick Cheney even wrote in the September 20th, 2000 PNAC document at the Project for New American Century, the fact that, hey, we need to legitimize through the media the use of race-specific bioweapons. And he's just calmly talking about we need to get with the media and legitimize the use in warfare of race weapons. Because Homo sapiens sapiens are all basically the same creatures, but the genetic variations are wide, and so of the subvariants, there are big differences. And so they've known for more than 50 years you can develop a race-specific bioweapon that, say, will kill anybody of not just Asian descent, but let's say you wanted to kill Mesoamerican Asians, because that's what, quote, you know, people in Mexico, Latin America are. They're really Asians who then intermarried with Spanish. And Spanish are just really originally Northern Europeans who migrated into the area, who then were overrun by Moors, Arabs, and Africans. So that's why they're having these big race-specific studies. You see with National Geographic, that's a big eugenics organization, where they say, give us your DNA, we'll track your ancestry back 10,000 years. And that's why governments now admit that going back 40 years, in 2012, it's now 40 years ago, that blood is taken from all babies at birth, and they tell you it's for a blood test. Now, that goes into a big global DNA database, because the globalists have got to study this properly. And the reason they haven't really released a lot of race-specific bioweapons yet, and they even talk about this and write about this, is that let's say Israel, who we know has worked on record with South Africa with a race weapon back in the 80s that would kill Semitic. Well, most Jews are at least partially Semitic. People are like, well, of course they're Semitic. Well, no. We always think of the term Semitic as just a Jewish person. No, it's anybody from that area of Palestine, that area of the Middle East. That's Semitic peoples. And there's a whole list of Semitic peoples. And most Jews do have their roots in Semitic tribes. And so if Israel was to release a bioweapon, which we know they worked on with South Africa to kill Arabs, well, that's going to blow back and kill a lot of Jews there in Israel and across the world. And it's the same thing. If a bioweapon was released to, say, kill Chinese, well, that would also kill most people of, quote, Latino or Hispanic descent, who themselves are taught that, well, you're part native, you're part Indian. I don't mean Indian from India, Indian. Well, Indians are really Asians who crossed over the Bering Strait. They've done the genetic test. It's basically Chinese. Well, turns out Northern Europeans all. That's why you see Russians have Asiatic features, because that's basically Viking Northern Europeans mixed with Asians. So that's the real problem with race-specific bioweapons. So the system has been working on developing specific race weapons that go after even certain common derivations that will target even subgroups, so that you've got to be almost entirely African for the weapon to kill you, or almost entirely Asian for the weapon to kill you. But, the problem here is I literally have about, 30, 40 articles here that I want to go over, and I didn't even intend to get into race-specific bioweapons today. I digressed off into race-specific bioweapons because I was simply talking about how the system wants to legitimize torture, race-specific bioweapons, warrantless checkpoints, every form of classical oppression you can imagine. Every day now. I mean, I talked 2-3 years ago about how the system was taking the gloves off, uncloaking themselves out in the open. Well, now the system, the controllers, that's intensifying on a weekly basis. I mean, in the last 2 days, I've probably seen, no exaggeration, 50 articles without even looking where they say, everything you're doing is being tracked, everything you're doing is being traced, we're listening to you, we're going to grab the data off your phones without warrants, we're going to face scan you everywhere you go, we're going to arrest you if the camera says you're suspicious, and the AI computer. We are launching AI self-aware autonomous drones in America. We are going to inspect your farm, your ranch, your home. We are setting up environmental police. We are going to raise your taxes. We are going to come after your families. We are going to set up a world government. We are going to bankrupt you. We are going to do, it is just a complete, absolute new world order offensive. And this is only the offensive before the real offensive. And I woke up at about 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I woke up all last night. And the immediacy, the imminence of our threat, the immediacy of the crises, of massive war with Iran, massive war in Syria, Iran, China involved, the immediacy of false flag terror attacks staged in this country as the pretext to go after the American people. I'll tell you, at about 4 in the morning, I finally decided before I went back to sleep that I needed to come on air today and openly ask the American people to pray to God to deliver us from this, and to repent, and to ask for a reprieve, because all of the craziness and all of the corruption and all of the problems that we've seen so far are nothing compared to what we're about to enter. And I told you a year ago that when they start hyping Iranian domestic terror attacks in America, you can expect that the staged terror is about to come, and that the big war is about to come. And sure enough, just like clockwork, they're saying Iran's going to attack U.S. bases, federal buildings. They're dispatching TSA with machine guns, federal security forces with machine guns, of course, harassing citizens when they go into the Social Security offices, you name it. And really, this is a cover for the martial law rollout. The globalists are full spectrum. They're not just going to attack Iran. They're going to attack us here themselves and then pose as the saviors. I'll explain it when we get back. We'll be right back. A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even if I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at GoBerkey.com. That's GoBerkey.com today.
Do you use a CPAP breathing device to help treat sleep apnea and prevent snoring? If so, you should know big insurance companies and government regulations can affect the way you buy sleep apnea equipment. They decide what devices you receive, when you get replacement equipment, and even what you pay. Why limit the quality of your treatment? Break away from institutionalized health care and shop where you set the sleep therapy standard. Shop at CPAP.com. See what? CPAP. It stands for Continuous Positive Airway Pressure. CPAP.com has the equipment you want in stock and ready to ship today. Visit CPAP.com to see all of your sleep apnea equipment options or call toll-free 1-855-SNORE11. That's 1-855-766-7311 to speak with a friendly sleep apnea expert who will answer all of your questions. Mention this ad for free shipping. Again, that's CPAP.com. CPAP.com. CPAP. Your money, your treatment, your choice.
If you're having any problems with the IRS or a local revenue agency, I understand and I can help. I'm tax attorney Tony Dennison. When I was a kid, the IRS came after my mother's house because of mistaken information. Ever since then, I've dedicated my life to defending people in trouble with the IRS. I'm a real tax attorney, which means I have 2 law degrees, a standard law degree known as a JD, and a tax law degree known as a Masters of the Laws in Taxation. I've been practicing for 10 years, and I've helped many of your fellow citizens in tax trouble. If you're in tax trouble, you don't need to be alone, and you don't need to call one of those fake lawyer clearinghouses. Call me, Tony Dennison, at Dennison Tax Law, 952-886-7141, or on the web at DennisonTaxLaw.com. It may be the best call you make all year. Dennison Tax Law, 952-886-7141. And again, on the web at DennisonTaxLaw.com.
Pienso que un sueño parecido no volverá más. Y me pintaba las manos y la cara de azul. Y de provisa el viento rápida me llevó. Y me hizo volar en el cielo infinito.
So I want to break down the immediacy of what we face. It's very simple. A powerful corporate special interest have taken control of our government and many other governments of the world, and they're openly getting rid of sovereignty, getting rid of any checks and balances that block them from engaging in any crimes they wish. And then they make it illegal to resist them, even politically. And that's what the New World Order is, if you had to really boil it down. It's a global corporate fascist bureaucratic dictatorship. And now it's out in the open. In fact, after the break, I've got some newscasts that the teams put together that I want to air here on the radio show from the Nightly News. One of them is the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, and then that ties in with the Darren McBreen piece on false flag. That's coming up. But I want to discuss the immediacy of this because, you see, to these globalists who always finance both sides or all sides of a crisis and then offer the solution, and then things get worse and they offer the solution to that because they want to consolidate power. You have to understand that when they attack Iran, that's because the war that lets you shut up your opposition. That lets you get the no-bid contracts. That lets you set up a domestic system. And when you discover that the plan we're currently under is at least from 1982, and Wesley Clark, talked about more than a decade ago, on C-SPAN, we've heard it several times, that he was at the Pentagon, former, head general of NATO, and that they said, yeah, here's the 8 countries we're made, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to start with Afghanistan, then Iraq, then we're going to move to Libya, then we're going to move to Syria, then we're going to move to Iran. And it's not just Wesley Clark saying he was at the Pentagon and they said this. This is the plan. And then you realize they're not trying to go in and kick out dictators and actually, build industries and hotels so we can all fly there and visit the incredible, resorts that could be set up there on the Mediterranean or the Red Sea or whatever. They're not doing that. No. In Iraq, in Libya, now in Egypt, and when they're done with Syria, they're kicking the old dictators out, many of which work for the globalist, and they are putting Al-Qaeda in. They are putting the Muslim Brotherhood in that's like Al-Qaeda light. And then they admit it all over the news. Just the last few days, I've seen 4 or 5 mainstream articles admitting, yeah, Israel and the U.S. are using Al-Qaeda terror groups to attack. And they go, yeah, this is no big deal. And yeah, the West is funding groups attacking from 3 sides in Syria. And yeah, 40,000 have been killed since the liberation in Libya, and Al-Qaeda is in charge, and they're killing the black Africans that are there, and they're killing and torturing government people, and they're torturing the ambassador to France. And people are like, well, why did you do this? Why did you invade? Because they want to screw the country up. The globalists want to screw us up with Agenda 21. I mean, Ted Turner, all of them say, post-industrial world. They want to wreck things. Because when they wreck what your society and your system and your taxes have built, they get to come in later when you're begging for anything and you've accepted your lower standard of living. They just kind of let a country cook under collapse for a few years, like Argentina or others. And then they just come in later, pose as the saviors, and people accept the new tyranny because at least the tyrants will turn the lights back on. And in 2002, I've been screaming bloody murder ever since then because I warned everybody then. I said, look, they're going to do what they did in Latin America and Africa and Asia here because they plan it. Here's the documents. And I've been just sitting here screaming bloody murder, trying to warn people as best I can. And now we move into the even more out of control phase where the globalists get to attack the Middle East and Central Asia and Pakistan and Iran, and they've got all the aircraft carriers openly saying they're preparing for war with China. And Russia has vetoed the Security Council move to send in troops into Syria that, remember, 6 months ago Hillary promised they wouldn't do. And she promised that it would only last weeks, well, days, not weeks, and so did Obama in Libya. And then they call it humanitarian to have CIA agent Anderson Astor Cooper up there on TV saying it's humanitarian, oh my gosh, Assad is killing protesters, when Assad is fighting back against al-Qaeda forces that our criminal government runs. And it's hiding in plain view is what's frustrating. But we've got some good news on that front. We're going to break that down coming up.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365. Hi folks, this is Alex Jones, and I want to tell you about the Silver Lungs generator. Now you can produce pure and endless colloidal silver and deliver the solution directly into the bloodstream by breathing the solution through the lungs. The respiratory system is the first line of defense for airborne pathogens and viruses. The Silver Lungs generator infuses the respiratory system with your self-produced nano-silver solutions and also delivers the silver nanoparticles instantly into the bloodstream. With continued legislation threatening the sale of nano-silver products, you can now produce pure and endless colloidal silver with the Silver Lungs generator. Very easy to follow step-by-step instructions are provided, making production fast and simple. Go to www.silverlungs.com today and learn more about the breakthrough technology of the Silver Lungs generator. That's www.silverlungs.com. I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central, we are here live. And, of course, I come back Sundays 4 to 6 p.m. Central. And don't forget, every weeknight, 7 o'clock, InfoWars Nightly News. A great team we're assembling there. So even when I go out of town or on the road, quite frankly, the Nightly News is better in some cases. I love the variety. And I finally twisted Darren McBreen's arm into hosting the Nightly News last week. He did an exceptional job. It's an exceptional job. And when I get around to it, we are going to run a contest in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to start running it for video submissions across the country, where the winner will win a cash prize and will then be interviewed, because we're going to interview a bunch of the people that give us submissions. You'll win a cash prize. I think it'll be like $5,000 for the best newscast news piece. And then you'll be interviewed to be a reporter at InfoWars. And I think I'm going to do 2 contests. It's time we get a female reporter. So it's going to be a female reporter, and we're also going to hire a male reporter. I haven't decided all the details yet. I meant to launch it a month ago, but I've been so busy. But we're going to hire a couple new reporters / anchors and a lot more here at Infowars.com. And we're able to do all this because viewers and listeners have supported our sponsors and supported our online video bookstore. You've bought the T-shirts. You've bought the bumper stickers. You've supported the sponsors. Because of that, we're able to continue and expand in the face of this depression that the country and the world has been artificially put into. All right, let me, before I get into all these audio video clips here, let me just basically talk to you. And I say this a lot because every time I look at the immediacy, the imminence of this, the 2 minutes to midnight nature of it, I don't feel worthy to even be covering this. And by that, it's kind of like that feeling where something takes your breath away and you know how real it is and you know how right you've been and you just wish it was happening. The globalists have had at least a 20-year plan, and we're now 20 years in, launched the plan that I saw for 1982, a Pentagon plan working with the Israelis, 1982, of how they the entire Middle East using overthrowing the governments and then bombarding and attacking those governments, backing up the proxies, playing the Shiites and Sunnis off against each other. And the order of the invasions, which they're following like clockwork. And again, this is not the Israeli government. This is not the U.S. government. These are not our governments. These are nations that have been captured by the globalists, England as well, that are being used to expand this global empire. And when Iran is attacked, Iran and this whole crisis that's going to come out of it and the asymmetrical warfare that we're going to experience, whether it's real or staged, the, quote, terrorist attacks are going to be used. Now, let me just briefly explain something here. Because every time I mention this, I see emails or comments saying that can't be true because it's so incredible. This was in Newsweek. This was in Time Magazine. You could just type in, Bush signed order to attack Afghanistan day before 9/11. He signed the order to launch the attacks 1 week from that point, the day before 9/11. In the 6 months before 9/11, 18,000 British troops and 44,000 U.S. troops massed in the stands, Uzbekistan and other countries around it. In 6 months, the weapons, the artillery, the helicopter parts, the troops, all of it, the aircraft carriers arrived 2 weeks before. Everything lined up, and then 9/11 happened as the reason to attack. You see, it's the PR, it's the hype, it's the buildup that lets you know it's staged. And just like clockwork, I told you, they're going to start saying that Iranian terrorists are going to attack federal buildings in the United States. Now you're being told they're going to attack any minute. They're busting fake patsies. They're saying brace for all of this. They're saying domestic groups are working with them. We're going to have highway checkpoints, they're now saying. Everything for a decade they've been gearing up for. And people are like, but we hadn't had any big terror attacks. Why are you doing urban warfare drills with the military in every major U.S. city? Why are you setting up highway checkpoints all over the country with the military and TSA? Why is the TSA popping up in Houston and Dallas, just where I live in Texas? Why are MPs from the Air Force, Army on the streets of San Antonio searching people? I mean, this is on the news now. Troops come up to you with sidearms. I mean, I remember 4 years ago, Endgame, or 5 years ago, and it showed troops running over with side with what looked like 45s. And people are like, well, troops carry Berettas. I know, they were carrying 45s. I know guns. In fact, I own one of those. Screaming at me and cussing at me, videotaping them. And the bizarreness of it was just I mean, it was in a bar district. Well, it was actually by Madison Square Garden. And they were there cheering on wrestlers that were getting off a bus walking in. And there were troops with guns running around. And I was saying, look how weird it is. And then they run across the street. Well, I mean, it's in Endgame cussing at me. But my point is there's been this giant military-industrial complex build-up. The training manuals, you go to the drills, you get all the sources, and you find out, folks, it's not about guys wearing turbans on their heads. It's not about going after Ali Habib or whatever that the Team America says. Durka, Muhammad Jihad, making fun of Muslims. It's not about that. I mean, I would be against this if it was for the Muslims. But let me explain something. It's never been for them. It's for people that can skin a buck and people that can run a trot line, because a country boy can't survive. In all the manuals and all the training that we've shown you here on air, it's about people that are self-sufficient, people that want to be left alone, because they know rural people live in reality, actually have to get in the storm cellar when a tornado comes, actually can their food, actually know how to shoot a gun, actually know how to skin a buck, actually know how to butcher a cow, actually know how to take care of chickens. And you are going to be the only opposition when they fully collapse this country into staged civil war. And this is a giant plan to get us into a war, but Iran and encircling Russia and China, that's only a secondary target. That's what I want to be clear about here. That's only a secondary target. I'm going to say it again. Iran is the secondary target. Syria is the secondary target. America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, every free nation, wealthy nation that was Christendom and that was the flower of the Renaissance and the Magna Carta, we are the targets. And by every yardstick, even all the academics admit this, governments admit it, Europe, England, the United States, Canada are joke-level police states now. I mean, just joke level. But it's parallel. You've got these giant police states, spying grids, torture police, camps, but they haven't implemented it yet. They've masked the force, but there's still the free speech to a certain extent. To a certain extent. But they're now trying to sell getting rid of it. And when they start selling it, they built all this behind the scenes, cloaked. When they start selling it, when they start selling the Iran attack, and then Iranians are going to attack us domestically, that's when they're getting ready to attack Iran. When they start selling, yes, we're going to have to set up checkpoints on your highways and arrest people that disagree with the government. It's on. When the Justice Department starts saying, we're just going to issue edicts to ban semi-automatic rifles and handguns. They're now saying that last week. NRA came out and said they're going to use edicts to ban guns next administration. And you know what? That's not scaremongering by the NRA. They actually, that's why the ATF last year, we broke this. Local gun dealers gave me the letters, 2 separate ones. People couldn't believe the letters at the time. They said, but that's not law. Where the ATF came and said, we're going to restrict the number of guns you can sell and who you can sell them to, and you got to call us when you sell a gun, even though they already call them. It's just about you follow stuff that isn't law. You do what we tell you. And so it's now happening. And we're going to have to start just saying no. This is an illegal, illegitimate, out-of-control government, and you look at what the government's doing, and if it isn't in the Bill of Rights and Constitution, it's illegitimate. Marbury versus Madison. But it still comes down to the point of we got to just start saying no to this. Like they said it was the law that black folks couldn't use the bathroom or couldn't stay in a hotel. I mean, can you imagine showing up to town and there's no black bathroom and you can't go to the bathroom? So you got to go out and go behind a tree. That's what black folks had to do. And black folks finally just said, you know what? I'm not going to put up with this anymore. Well, it's the same thing for all Americans now. With the TSA and all of it, we just got to say, you know what? I'm done. You do whatever you're going to do. I'm going to start not complying. And you got to pick your battles, but it's time to really get aggressive with this system. Now, we're going to get Matt Stein at the bottom of the next hour because I do want to get to all these videos. And we also have the video basically of why Judge Andrew Napolitano was fired from his Fox Business show. And the last thing he said on his show, and I'm going to repost it on Infowars.com as well. I'm going to have Kurt Nimmo do an article about it. But we're going to air that coming up the next hour. Just a little 4.5-minute clip, but very eloquent, where he finally just says the whole system's fake. It's all a fraud. New World Order. It's all a scam. They own both parties. And he didn't know, by the way, he was going to be canned when he did that. But that was the last straw. Because when you admit that it's all window dressing and false, like people are now admitting that, okay, it's election fraud. Ron Paul's being cheated. And people are like, well, then what do? You just admit it's that bad. It's that rotten. We're going to go to break here, and I'm going to play, going out to break, Hegelian Dialectic by John Bound that deals with the problem, reaction, solution. They create the crisis, then you beg for a solution, they offer the solution. Then we're going to come back out of break with a shorter piece on false flag terrorism, and then I'm going to continue. But and then we start the next hour. I'm going to talk about gut check time. But let's go ahead and go to this piece on the Hegelian dialectic.
The global banking cartel has used one tried and true process to create wars, rob us of our currency, and eat away at our substance. This process of control over the masses is called the Hegelian dialectic. So what is it, and how is it being used today? German philosopher George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel devised a dialectic, or method to resolve a disagreement between outcomes. The dialectic is made up of 3 attributes: thesis, an idea or opinion; antithesis, the opposite idea or opinion; and synthesis, the alchemic process to bring together a wanted change. It is commonly referred to as order out of chaos, and is waged against the masses in many forms. Saul Alinsky, self-avowed Marxist, proponent of the Hegelian dialectic, published this in Rules for Radicals. Any revolutionary change must be preceded by a passive, affirmative, non-challenging attitude toward change among the mass of our people. They must feel so frustrated, so defeated, so lost, so futureless in the prevailing system that they are willing to let go of the past and chance the future. George Bush became the hero of 9/11 simply due to the fact that he was the president, and then rammed through legislation that threatened our liberties as we all complacently stood by and allowed it to happen. A manufactured crisis occurs, thesis. George Bush answers it by rallying public opinion and becoming the host of the tragedy, antithesis, thus owning the crisis through synthesis. Equilibrium is attained. All of the once separate parts of the plan are joined together. In this example, the Patriot Act acting as the equilibrium on the desired road to tyrannical fascism in America.
They're too good at what they're doing. They create the crisis on record. They sell the fraud. Then they say, give us more power. Give up your sovereignty, Europe, America, and we'll fix it. But then it only implodes faster. They make bigger bonuses, but they're destroying their own golden goose. They're hacking it open greedily. When it's giving them a golden egg every morning, they think there's eggs inside. I think the point you made of because they're on record creating this to consolidate power. They've bragged about it. Those memos have been made public by Goldman Sachs and others. But they're going to fry things so badly, the bankers are all running to private islands with their own security teams. I mean, like they want to rule everything so much and have just so many digits in their bank accounts that they're going to devalue the value of the digits through their sheer greed.
That is a possibility. And if you look at the Hegelian dialectic, if that crisis at the beginning spins out of control, they lose the tail end of the dialectic, don't they? There will be no synthesis at the end. They'll be lucky if they survive.
Another method to manipulate the masses is the use of 2 opposing views to attain the desired view. Politician A espouses the first view. Politician B counters with the differing view. A clear example of this was the debate over the unconstitutional NDAA bill of 2012.
I strongly believe that the United States government should not have the ability to lock away its citizens for years and perhaps decades without charging them and providing a heightened level of due process. We don't pick up citizens. We don't incarcerate them for 10 or 15 or 20 years or until hostilities end, and no one knows when they will end, without giving them due process of law.
The great concern that we have now in terms of the security of the homeland is from so-called homegrown terrorists, radicalized Americans. So these people, in my opinion, have taken sides. They've joined the enemy. And to have this body at this time, as the threat of homegrown terrorism rises, say no, they can't be treated as enemy combatants, is not only doesn't make sense, and is totally unresponsive to the facts that I've just described.
President Obama threatened to veto the bill as long as it contained the section concerning due process, and then quickly changed his mind before the final version was voted through Congress. Obama then told the media that the version he had signed was revised to eliminate any threat to freedom of American citizens, even though this was not true, and the bill gives extraordinary powers to detain American citizens without a trial. The media synthesized Obama's lie by claiming that Obama will not use the powers he now has. The desired result is synthesized by mainstream media as they turn a blind eye to the debate. The American people cave into the lie because the process it is attached to seems so familiar. John Bound, InfoWars Nightly News.
I'm really excited by the team we're building at InfoWars, and quite frankly, my goal is that even if I get killed or set up or put in prison, I intend to have the InfoWar continue through the company we've set up and the crew we've got. But again, we wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for your support out there, the viewers and listeners, and if it wasn't for God's protection. I want to go ahead and go to another little short piece here that accompanied John Bound's piece on the Nightly News last Thursday. This is False Flags with Darren McBreen getting into what a false flag is, also part of the Hegelian dialectic of problem-reaction solution, or order out of chaos. Here it is.
In 1953, the CIA and British intelligence staged terror attacks to overthrow the democratically elected leader of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh had nationalized Iran's oil fields and denied British Petroleum a monopoly. U.S. and British intelligence operatives launched a successful coup d'etat and overthrew the Iranian government, replacing the regime with a ruthless dictatorship while seizing control of Iran's oil supply. 1964. U.S. warships were apparently attacked by North Vietnamese PT boats, an incident that kicked off the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. The attack was a staged event that never actually took place. What followed was an excuse by President Lyndon Johnson to dramatically expand the scale of the Vietnam War, ultimately at the cost of 3 or 4 million dead Vietnamese and 58,000 Americans. June 8, 1967, the USS Liberty, an American naval vessel sailing off the coast of Gaza, was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of Israel. The well-coordinated attack, which lasted for hours, resulted in the deaths of 34 crewmen, 170 injured, and catastrophic damage to the ship, one of the most highly decorated vessels in U.S. history. Egypt was to be blamed for the attack, to serve as a pretext to drag the U.S. and her allies into war in the Middle East. If not for the heroic efforts of the ship's captain and his brave crew, the Liberty would have faced almost certain destruction. The truth about Israel's attack and subsequent White House cover-up continues to be officially concealed from the American people to this day.
All right, and again, that's a report on just some of the more recent false flag events. Now, if you're watching us via prisonplanet.tv, you can see this, or you can go out and find it on the newsstands everywhere. Here's a USA Today article on the cover of USA Today today, and it says, in Egypt, revolution is fading, citizens facing a ailing economy and a new tyranny. And it's on record that the United States financed the revolutionary forces and the ouster of Hosni Mubarak, the 32-year dictator, who I'm not defending. He tortured people, he did all that, but compared to what's in charge now, he was a good guy. I didn't defend our government helping put him in power and keeping him in power. The point is they threw him out and are now putting in Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood, and the women are all going to have to wear burqas now, and they're killing people in the streets, and it's many times worse. And this is what they replaced it with. And they're going to do the same thing in Syria, same thing in Libya has now happened. And again, I'm told I've got to give up all my rights or Al-Qaeda will get me, and Al-Qaeda publicly works for the criminals that have taken our government over. And people are like, well, you know, the U.S. uses them to deal with our enemies. The very same corporate interests that run our intelligence agencies are overthrowing our Bill of Rights and Constitution. They're enslaving us. They're paying companies with tax incentives and bailout money to leave. They want to destroy societies. They want to wreck things. They want to be in their armored compounds, and the rest of us are running around outside their, high-tech reservations. They're inside their big armored fortresses. We're outside of them. And these globalists hate humanity. They're not Americans. They're playing us off against each other, and it's so disgusting to know that the very groups trying to start this Iran war and telling those of us that aren't for it that we're not patriotic or we're not tough are the very ones that are going to stage terror attacks in this country. I mean, the head of National Security Council, Clapper, wrote 2 weeks ago, and we covered it publicly in white papers to the elites. But again, I say publicly, it was never on the news, that we need to have some type of staged provocation to attack Iran. And it would sure be helpful. Kind of like the CFR and others have written things similar before. They're openly talking about how great false flags are going to be, and then magically we start hearing Iran's going to hit us any minute, get ready for World War III. Why would Iran attack something here in the United States knowing that it's going to elicit a giant military attack on their own country? Iran has already put up with 5 years of U.S. and Israeli-backed groups blowing up military bases, blowing up weapons depots, assassinating and killing people. It's been going on 5 years. Now it's just accelerated and is admitted. And again, I'm not saying Assad's good. I'm not saying Ahmadinejad's good. The point is that the West wants to destabilize, because the people that run the West want to destabilize the whole world because they're in control, and through the destabilization, they can consolidate power. This is the message I'm trying to get out to you. And I had intended, this is not a religious show, but I am a Christian. I do believe in God. They say there are no atheists in foxholes, but the atheists tell me that there are. All I know is that we need to repent. We need to be sorry for what we've done. We need to be sorry for being decadent, for not being involved. And we need to cry out to God to help wake people up and to help turn this around and to help get these evil people out, because the power of prayer has been proven, whatever you think's behind it. And I just love God, and I just woke up over and over again last night feeling like I should come on air and really just tell people one of the biggest answers is prayer. And I think when we start the second segment, I'm going to say a prayer on air. We'll be right back.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that the global elite are now storing non-hybrid seeds in secret storage vaults near the Arctic Circle? Did you know that in a real meltdown, non-hybrid seeds can become more valuable than silver or gold? It's true, seeds have outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Well, the establishment corporate whore media ignored the massive Ron Paul Veterans March. We have a compilation of videos and articles at Infowars.com. They're in the featured news segment. And hopefully tonight on the Nightly News, the guys can put together a boil down of that for folks. I think that's a good idea. Here I am directing the news crew from the road live on the radio. Also, terror war cheerleader gets reality check on underwear bomber facts. We're going to play some clips of that from C-SPAN coming up in the next segment. Excellent article up at Infowars.com on eugenics, effective by incrementalism. Also, new Ron Paul 2012 ad slams Santorum as fake. Scary NSA propaganda says anonymous cyber attack will take down the power grid. Also, Minority Report style advertising rolled out in London, pre-crime. Election 2012, just one more created and crafted illusion. That's just some of the news up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. And please, viewers and listeners, remember, the system is doing everything it can to restrict this information. They are blocking us on Google News. They are blocking us on many Wi-Fi systems around the world and in different internet databases and different filters, putting us in the hacking section or whatever. The system is scared of what Infowars.com is doing as a focal point of liberty. But you can override that by putting out our info on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, hammering the enemy hard. So please continue to spread the word about Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. It is really up to you whether or not we're going to have success at this. And we've got our guest coming up, and I'm running out of time. I was going to have the guest on for 2 hours, and I already backed him off 30 because I haven't talked about how incredible it is to meet with our listeners like I did. And I don't know why. I can't describe why. In a way, I don't like doing it. All I can say is to see these people with their eyes on fire with liberty and the people with their children and just what quality people our listeners are. And to have them all looking up to me, admiring me, and it's just, I don't feel worthy. I guess that's what it is. It makes me blush. But I think it's good. I mean, I should do more public events because it recharges me. And it really gets my head screwed on straight. Because I'm the opposite of somebody on a power trip, the opposite of somebody, who likes being in crowds or likes getting awards or likes things like that. I just kind of like stomping around behind the scenes in my own little system and basically throwing, rocks and shooting arrows at the New World Order. But I do tend to get hateful and crotchety, kind of like a Archie Bunker on steroids, and I get so close to just the nuts and bolts and the technical stuff of just trying to keep my system going to fight them that I do kind of turn into like this mean creature And it is good to just go out and actually see people, but it just blew me away. It just totally blows me away. And I know I'm obnoxious. I know I get excited and interrupt people. And I know that I do all these things, and I try to change it, but I can't change who I am because I am real and it's not scripted. Then I can't change. Isn't there a Leonard Skinner song about that? It doesn't matter. In the final equation, I'm doing what I can. I just can't believe how hardcore reality is and how down to the wire we are and how important it is what you're doing out there to wake others up. I cannot stress to you enough, there's going to come a time where we're probably not going to be on air if we don't turn this around soon. There's going to come a time where things get a lot darker. We got to work now with the sun is still shining.
I've been telling you about eFoods Direct for a while now. Here are my top 10 reasons to stock up on food from eFoods Direct. Number 10, the food I get from eFoods Direct tastes great. Number 9, the eFoods meals are easy to prepare. 8, eFoods Direct delivers the food right to my front door. 7, most of these meals cost less than $2. 6, with their large variety, I can eat it every day. 5, I always have access to high quality and delicious food. Number 4, eFoods products don't spoil, so I never waste any food. 3, eFoods uses only safe, healthy ingredients. Number 2, I have my own food supply and don't depend on the grocery store. And the number 1 reason I promote eFoods Direct is they build special offers just for my listeners. Folks, don't wait. Get prepared now. We all need to be self-sufficient. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 and ask for the Alex Jones special. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 or efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
When you're out on the road, the last place you want to be is on the road. But if the unfortunate happens, you'll be glad you were wearing diamond gussets.
There's a place down in Tennessee where they make blue diamond gusset jeans. They so pride in every stitch, guarantee you love the way they fit. They put a diamond gusset in the crotch where you need it most. Blue diamond gussets got it, others don't.
We turn jeans inside out. Diamond Gusset Jeans. Made in the USA with unparalleled quality. Our Defender motorcycle jeans combine gusset comfort with Kevlar protection, so you can ride all day with confidence. Order yours at gusset.com. Diamond Gusset Jeans got it. Others don't.
A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even though I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
There is a universal law. What comes around goes around. You reap what you sow. You can call it karma. Back on you. And there's also a law that if you've been shielded from your actions for a long time, when the dam finally does break, it's going to be, you know what to pay. And in our name and through our energy, our money, our taxes, our ingenuity, the United States and Europe has been used to build a giant evil. And all of the tyranny, all of the oppression, all of these systems that have been exported worldwide are now coming back to roost here at home. And again, the system plans on attacking Iran, attacking other countries through proxies, putting Al-Qaeda in charge. That's now public. All of this is out in the open. The globalists aren't even attempting to hide things. And what's frightening about that is it signifies that they intend to go for broke. They're following a long-term strategic plan. And the Middle East is only the secondary target. The Western world is the main target of the war, because they're able to consolidate power, they're able to consolidate control, they're able to crack down on populations during a war. And there has been massive sustained buildup towards martial law preparations in this country, Europe, and every other major wealthy Western nation. We are the target of the military-industrial complex itself, controlled by the big mega banks that hate our way of life, that hate freedom. But because they wear suits and ties, they talk like us, and they're basically a mafia, people don't know how to recognize them. And then they dangle the guys in the turbans and stuff. Give up your rights or these guys will get you, while they publicly control them. And it's hiding in plain view. It's there. It's very simple what's happening. It's full spectrum dominance, where the globalists are waging war against everyone. They control the entire process. They control all sides. And either we have an awakening to this and say no, or we lose our society. And I want to go to a clip of that in a moment with some good news, because I see this now all the time. Terror war cheerleader gets reality check on underwear bomber facts. C-SPAN callers hammer home U.S. government's role in aiding the underwear bomber. But before I get to that, it just really hit me hard last night. In the middle of the night, repeatedly, I kept waking up. Just how close we are to midnight here. Just how imminent this expansion of tyranny is. And so I just want to pray that everybody out there be moved in whatever way is best for them, to wake others up and to get prepared and to try to warn everyone we know that serious, premeditated, very wicked evil has been setting up a system of total takeover. And that the tyrants that we have are the worst variety I've ever studied or ever seen. And that the Bill of Rights and Constitution is a hedge of protection that our forebears set up against it. And they said, oh, don't worry about that. Let us get rid of that. And you notice now that they're phasing that out through fraud, all of our basic freedoms are disappearing out the window. So I just want to pray to our Heavenly Father, Jesus, our Creator. I mean, whoever's out there, whatever God you believe in, or even if you don't believe in God, obviously you haven't experienced the things I've experienced. Just please don't make fun of those of us that have a connection to things that are unseen. Science shows that 99% of what's really going on in the universe is unseen. The light spectrum that we see in is only a tiny part of that spectrum. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. I can feel God. I have a relationship with God. And I see all the wondrous blessings, all the good things in life, all the decent things. The world is full of so much more good, but we let the evil take over. And I just pray that our nation repent and this world repent, and that we seek God, and that we apologize and repent and seek God's face, and that we be reprieved. And that doesn't just mean that God allows us to continue down this path of decadence and worldliness and evil and pettiness, but that God help activate our inner compasses that he gave us, our conscience, our common sense, our instincts that God gave us, and that everyone out there see their important role in this test. We're only alive once, and history is happening now. The crossroads is now. This is the time. This is what we're here for. We're not here to just get drunk and watch football and act cool and party and obsess over baubles that don't matter and that pass away. We're here to try to build a better society and be good, decent people, and we're being tested. Please, God, put it on people's hearts to repent and to have a relationship, and all those servants of evil that haven't been totally turned over to wickedness, like Saul of Tarsus on the road to Damascus. I pray that you send your angels to knock them off their horses, and that we see people within the establishment turn from evil. We're already seeing it happen. We're already seeing people across the spectrum tell it like it is and get fired and get in trouble. But that's what it's going to take to really reveal this evil. I just pray that you move with your spirit against this evil through us who are willing to take on the responsibilities, whatever the cost may be, of being filled up by your Spirit. We ask for that now, and I ask for your Spirit, your Holy Spirit, to be strong and to flow into those that are willing to stand against evil in this great time of darkness, that we do everything we can to turn this around before this great war begins and before the great dark time unfolds. We may have more time to wake up more people and get a reprieve like Nineveh, if that is your will. Amen. Evil, just by incrementalism, gets us where we're just used to standing around and just accepting it because it just stands there in the room with us. We need to learn to recognize it and say no to it. Okay, I want to go to this clip. You can watch the whole thing. It's like 6 minutes long. And I see this on YouTube all the time. I mean, every few days people send me clips. I've seen so many now, I don't even watch them usually, where every globalist that goes on C-SPAN gets chewed up, and the callers are informed from Oklahoma City to 9/11 to the New World Order to Agenda 21. Every time these globalists go on, and they've got this Mickey McCarter, prominent mouthpiece of the military-industrial complex, all tied in. You can go read about him on the website. He's on there saying, give up your rights, you know, Al-Qaeda, the underwear bomber is going to get you. Prepare for the Iranians to hit us. And every caller, we're just going to play a few of them, calls in and says, you know what, buddy? You know what, buddy? This is what really happened, and we know what's going on. Now, this caller is in the middle of a group of callers. The earlier callers are saying, you don't know about Mottalib working for the government? You don't know about the government getting him on the plane? You don't know about the State Department admitting they were ordered to do this? And then, the next caller says, don't tell me you don't know this, working for the military. Here is that clip.
To Mark in Wayne, Michigan, on our independent line. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, C-SPAN. Good morning, America. And also, good morning, Mr. McCarter.
Good morning.
Yes, I have a question about you claiming that you had no idea about that underwear bomber being helped onto that plane. I live on disability, and I even knew about that. If you've seen the evidence that I have gathered about this individual and about the warehouses that were completely filled with all of these body scanners and no airports were buying them. So then this underwear bomber thing came along, and every one of them got sold immediately. This is how they work. These elites that have hijacked the federal government are using it by use of the media, by lying to the people.
So Mark, you're saying that there's an infrastructure in place that's geared towards making money off these crises. So Mark is claiming that it's a generated crises in order to help businesses make money.
Well, I have to say, you know, after this program, I'm kind of interested in talking to my colleague, Tony Kimmery, who specializes in intelligence, to see if he is aware of, you know, the stories that somebody might have helped the underwear bomber onto this plane, because I certainly am unaware of them. As for the, there's lots of accusations of, you know, government being in bed with industry on various issues. I know as a matter of policy that the Bush administration had actually had a plan for the whole body imagers to be rolled out, and that was under consideration by the Obama administration before the underwear bombing incident. And then that's just sort of accelerated that plan and put it into public view. Whereas this was always sort of on the paper, because there is a realization that metal detectors can only detect metal, and we've had these problems before where people bring illicit items onto planes because they're non-metallic.
Bill, Republican in Fairfield, Connecticut, our last call. Go ahead.
Yes, hate to keep hammering you with this underwear thing, but yes, there's been a lot of news about this. In fact, it was televised on C-SPAN before Congress. Undersecretary of State for Management Patrick Kennedy said that the gentleman was allowed to get on the airplane, because they were tracking him, which is troubling in either case, knowing that he had a bomb on him and allowing him to get on the plane in the first place.
Again, I'm unaware of that.
All right. Mickey McCarter, senior Washington correspondent for Homeland Security Today. Thanks.
All right. By the way, Rob Dew sent him an email yesterday to try to get him on the nightly news of the radio, and he emailed us back, Mickey McCarter, and said this is all just conspiracy theory. Kind of like al-Qaeda being used in Syria, in Libya, in Iran, the very same Iranian groups that are now being attacked by al-Qaeda, we're being told by the media, run al-Qaeda, and it's just conspiracy theory. If you're informed. Remember, it's a conspiracy theory that Fast and Furious was to be blamed on the Second Amendment, even though those memos have now come out. It was a conspiracy theory when we said that the government was doing that. I'm going to come back with this Judge Andrew Napolitano clip, why he really got fired, straight ahead. So you'll want to stay with us, Infowars.com.
BePrepared.com is making deals because you need to be prepared now and you need to save. Stay tuned for a free offer from BePrepared.com. BePrepared.com is the official site of Emergency Essentials, a 24-year leader in emergency preparedness supplies. Everything from long-term food storage to emergency kits, water storage and filtration to alternative light and heat sources. Now the sale items. Right now through February 29th, save 15% on canned bacon, 28% on a working with wheat combo, 28% on a 1-month supply of freeze-dried and dehydrated food, and more, all at BePrepared.com. Plus, order $75 or more and get a free $25 gift card by using promo code Genesis35 at checkout at BePrepared.com. Limit 1 per customer. This sale ends February 29th. Call 800-222-9596 and experience exceptional customer service and our low price guarantee. That's 800-222-9596. Hurry, sale ends February 29th. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
That's the sound of your door being kicked in by an intruder with a single kick. That's the sound of the same door now protected by the Door Sentinel at MySafeDoor.com. Go to MySafeDoor.com right now and watch the amazing video. At MySafeDoor.com, you'll learn how to turn your home into a fortress with the Door Sentinel. 16 kicks later, and the Door Sentinel is still holding strong. MySafeDoor.com. That's MySafeDoor.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
2012 is finally here, and while the government racks up another $1 trillion in debt, the IRS is hard at work collecting. In fact, they're even sending agents to some people's homes in place of business. If you owe back taxes, have years of unfiled tax returns, or are receiving threatening letters or phone calls, call the tax division of the law offices of Craig Zimmerman at 800-652-6978. Our tax division is spearheaded by a former IRS agent with over 31 years experience. He knows the ins and outs of the IRS and how to get them off your back once and for all. The phone call is free and so is the consultation. So call now. 800-652-6978. That's 800-652-6978. Don't wait for agents to knock on your door. Call 800-652-6978 or visit us on the web at www.craigzlaw.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hi, I'm Mark Craighead, founder of Crossbreed Holsters. I designed our top-selling holster, the Super Tuck Deluxe, to solve the problems of being poked, pinched, and gouged while carrying concealed. The Super Tuck Deluxe is the most comfortable, most concealable holster on the market today. We offer a 2-week free trial and a lifetime warranty.
Visit us at crossbreedholsters.com. Don't forget, crossbreedholsters.com. In a coming apart world, you need something to keep it tied together. That something is Atwood Rope, the highest quality rope made in the USA, from exotic braids for military, rescue, arborists, shipyards, tow line, or boating. Quality rope at affordable prices you and your customers can depend on. Find a dealer or shop online at atwoodrope.net. Enter promo code RADIO to receive 100 feet of 550 paracord free with purchase. Atwood Rope, working to keep the world tied together.
Young men fighting, look at your women crying, look at your young men dying.
All right, this video and audio we're about to play, I'm going to have Kurt repost on the front page of Infowars.com. We posted it last week. But this is the end of Judge Napolitano's last show a few weeks ago. And he got fired from his Fox Business show because he wouldn't play globalist ball. And because Rupert Murdoch is basically being blackmailed with all his criminal cases of spying and wiretapping in England, and there's open talk of the Justice Department indicting him here, and because Judge Napolitano was supporting Ron Paul and wouldn't shut up about it, and was exposing that the emperor has no clothes, and that both political parties are controlled by the same interest. Here is some of the most powerful information in only 4 minutes that I've ever seen. Here it is with Judge Napolitano.
What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners? What if there's no such thing as public opinion, because every thinking person has opinions that are uniquely his own? What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that, or there's something wrong with them? What if the whole purpose of the Democratic and Republican parties was not to expand voters' choices, but to limit them? What if the widely perceived differences between the two parties was just an illusion? What if the heart of the government policy remains the same no matter who's in the White House? What if the heart of government policy remains the same no matter what the people want? What if those vaunted differences between Democrat and Republican were actually just minor disagreements? What if both parties just want power and are willing to have young people fight meaningless wars in order to enhance that power? What if both parties continue to fight the war on drugs just to give bureaucrats and cops bigger budgets and more jobs? What if government policies didn't change when government leaders did? What if no matter who won an election, government stayed the same? What if government was really a revolving door for political hacks bent on exploiting the people once they're in charge? What if both parties supported welfare, war, debt, bailouts, and big government? What if the rhetoric that candidates displayed on the campaign trail was dumped after electoral victory? What if Barack Obama campaigned as an anti-war, pro-civil liberties candidate and then waged senseless wars while assaulting your rights that the Constitution is supposed to protect? What if George W. Bush campaigned on a platform of non-intervention and small government, and then waged a foreign policy of muscular military intervention and a domestic policy of vast government borrowing and growth? What if Bill Clinton declared that the era of big government was over, but actually just convinced Republicans like Newt Gingrich that they can get what they want out of big government too? What if the Republicans went along with it? What if Ronald Reagan spent 6 years running for president, promising to shrink the government, but then the government grew while he was in the White House? What if, notwithstanding Reagan's ideas and cheerfulness and libertarian rhetoric, there really was no Reagan revolution at all? What if all this is happening again? What if Rick Santorum is being embraced by voters who want small government, even though Senator Santorum voted for the Patriot Act, for an expansion of Medicare, and for raising the debt ceiling by trillions of dollars? What if Mitt Romney is being embraced by voters who want anyone but Barack Obama, but they don't realize that Mitt Romney might as well be Barack Obama on everything from warfare to welfare? What if Ron Paul is being ignored by the media, not because, as it claims, he's unappealing or unelectable, but because he doesn't fit into the pre-manufactured public opinion mold used by the establishment to pigeonhole the electorate and create the so-called narrative that drives media coverage of elections? What if the biggest difference between most candidates was not substance, but style? What if those stylistic differences were packaged as substantive ones to reinforce the illusion of a difference between Democrats and Republicans? What if Mitt Romney wins and ends up continuing most of the same policies that Barack Obama promoted? What if Barack Obama's policies, too, are merely extensions of those from George W. Bush? What if a government that manipulated us could be fired? What if a government that lacked the true and knowing consent of the governed could be dismissed? What if it were possible to have a real game changer? What if we need a Ron Paul to preserve and protect our freedoms from the government? What if we could make elections matter again? What if we could do something about this? From New York, defending freedom every night of the week.
Not anymore. You're off the air. And they're now openly calling to shut down shows like this one with internet censorship, the Fairness Doctrine, and the rest of it. It's because he broke the rule and endorsed Ron Paul that he's off the air. And they got rid of Buchanan over at MSNBC for the same type of stuff. They're getting ready for a giant new war and giant clampdowns here domestically.
The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365. Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. I'm looking for people that have the wisdom to spot savings, opportunity, and recognize risk. Saving means to make money. The Cal Ben Pure Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated and twice as good as what you're using now. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous toxic detergents that give you rashes, itching sores, and deteriorating clothing called lint. If you want something better, if you want something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before. Getting a free catalog is easy by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. Take charge of your health now by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. I've been telling you about eFoods Direct for a while now. Here are my top 10 reasons to stock up on food from eFoods Direct. Number 10, the food I get from eFoods Direct tastes great. Number 9, the eFoods meals are easy to prepare. 8, eFoods Direct delivers the food right to my front door. 7, most of these meals cost less than $2. 6, with their large variety, I can eat it every day. 5, I always have access to high quality and delicious food. Number 4, eFoods products don't spoil, so I never waste any food. 3, eFoods uses only safe, healthy ingredients. Number 2, I have my own food supply and don't depend on the grocery store. And the number 1 reason I promote eFoods Direct is they build special offers just for my listeners. Folks, don't wait. Get prepared now. We all need to be self-sufficient. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 and ask for the Alex Jones special. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 or efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing. I mean, nothing, honey, if it ain't free. enough for me. Good enough for me and my Bobby, yeah. From the Kentucky coal mines to the California sun.
Now, Matthew Stein is going to be our guest for the balance of the broadcast, and in the second hour, we're going to have open guest. He's a MIT design engineer, and he's written 2 best-selling books that we just so happen to be carrying because I think they're so important at Infowars.com and our online video bookstore. We're going to be talking to him in just a moment about When Technology Fails, a manual for self-reliance, and also we're going to be talking about his other book as well. So that is all coming up here on the broadcast today. But continuing here with this information, obviously our society is getting crazier and crazier. In fact, one of the points I'm going to raise for our guest coming up is this Wired magazine cover story, Your Next Car Will Drive Itself. Everything is going to basically this panopticon, centralized, computerized system to track and traces. Well, that makes it even more likely that when an EMP hits the planet or a solar flare or other problem, that our civilization will be that much more easy to knock off balance or destabilize or even plunge into a large depressionary crisis. And so I want to go to our guest here and talk a little bit about why he wrote Technology Fails, When Technology Fails, and also some of the points we didn't get to 2 weeks ago when he was on the show with us from his book, When Disaster Strikes. And again, both books, When Disaster Strikes and When Technology Fails, are both available at Infowars.com. Because if you look at Katrina or if you look at any of these events, government can't and won't protect you. And then you look at what's going on in places like, and we're just doing some hookup here so we can get back on Skype for the TV viewers who are out there watching as well. So we'll finish up with that here in just a moment. But continuing, it's not even that big of a deal because we're on the radio, so everything's fine. All right, again, I'm on the road here, and we are joined by Matt Stein. And it is important to realize that as humans become more and more disconnected from reality, as humans become more and more disconnected from the land, as humans become more plugged into machines, take what's happening just with smartphones and text messaging. I saw big studies last year where young people have lost around a third of their vocabulary in just the last 5 years, and it's projected to even be lost more. People don't really talk. They sit there and text to each other 5 feet away. Look at how 30 years ago, before the Texas Instruments calculator came out, almost everyone knew basic arithmetic. Now no one seems to know it because it's not in use. Or handwriting, it's getting worse and worse. And with spell checkers, basic spelling is falling apart. And again, I'm not against technologies, but I'm talking about how they then adversely affect us when 90% of us live in cities and aren't self-sufficient. What happens if we have another Great Depression and instead of 7 million people dying from complications from malnutrition and illnesses over the 10-year depression, and we had close to 90% living on farms and a lot of those self-sufficient. Now we have upwards of 90% living in cities, and those that do live on farms, only about half of them are self-sufficient, so that's around 5% of the population. These are the issues we need to discuss, and the social engineers admit they want us under Agenda 21 in these big compact cities under their control, and that's a major problem that we face as a society is that the system wants us domesticated. Now, because he is a environmental scientist, because he is a design engineer from MIT, a really smart guy, because the info he covers I've checked out for myself and I find to be very accurate, certainly not fear-mongering. He's talking about real issues that we should prepare for. I want to ask him, before I get into some of the points that I know he wants to go over, I wanted to bring up to Matt Stein first, obviously, modern environmentalism pushed by the big corporations and Ken Lay, who called for carbon taxes, and all of this is a counterfeit of real environmental concern of let's not dump toxic waste in the ocean, let's not splice all the major crops with animals and plants, let's not, have nuclear reactors leaking everywhere. All the real environmental stuff I see being ignored by corporate environmentalism, and I only see environmentalism being used as a power grab. And because you are a expert, real environmentalist from reading your books, and are into real sustainability, which is always individual. I mean, here's an example. They'll give you government subsidies to put in some solar panels, but they've got to be hooked into the main grid, which makes them basically worthless. And then they won't send inspectors out in most cities or most counties under environmental rules to inspect or approve your private solar panels. The system doesn't want real sustainability. They want a fake sustainability that's really a centralization. So I'm throwing you a curveball out of the gates here, Matt, and then we'll get into all the other big threats you say humanity faces and how you think we should deal with that, and some of the questions you sent over that you think are important for me to ask you that I agree are pretty powerful. But what do you say to that? Real environmentalism versus this corporatoid system?
Well, I'd say that the corporations are really running the show. And you can see that they're bitch and moan that some things like solar and wind can't stand on their own without government subsidies. And yet you get $10 paid in terms of tax and subsidies and breaks to giant fossil fuel, oil, coal, nuclear companies get $10 subsidies for every single dollar that actually goes to sustainable industries like wind and solar. So it's like they're saying, oh, they can't stand on their own without subsidies, and yet they get $10 in subsidies for every one that goes to something else. So it's clear that the people who are running the show are the ones with the big money. And when you read about the environmental damage all over the world from the oil industry, and there are solutions to getting off of oil, but they take a long time. You can't just like flip a switch and it's instantly done. To implement these new technologies takes time and money. But the guys who are running the show are the guys who got rich and wealthy off the system the way it was and the way it's been. So they got a huge stake in keeping us going the way we've been going. Unfortunately, that's like heading for the cliff at 100 miles an hour or the end of the tracks and a big stone wall. And that's the way we're going right now. There's a lot of lip service to sustainability, but as far as actually changing any of the trends in our world that are headed for collapse, we're really not done a damn significant thing on any one of the 6 trends I identified headed towards collapse. None of them. So we give a lot of lip service, but we don't actually do much that's going to make a difference in the long run.
Expanding on that, I see the big corporations taking over the environmental movement as a power grab, not just so they can take over real estate in the name of the environment, but also so they can control the information and make sure no real environmental solutions ever get into the pike.
I'm not sure they're trying to prevent real environmental solutions. They're just after their own pocket. It's like they got rich and powerful through the way things were. So they have a stake in keeping it going the way it's been going. So I don't think that they're actively trying to collapse the world environmentally. I think that they just made their money doing things the way they were done, and they want to keep them going that same way, which is heading us environmentally for that cliff. So
okay, I haven't raised this point to you, but I'd like you to just read a laundry list of crises we face that you cover when disaster strikes. Your extremely powerful book,
right?
And then get back into any facets that you think are most important. But specifically on the front of GMO, nanotech, and things like that, clearly it's a proven threat that if there's a big solar flare, one of these massive events, it could knock out the grid for years. I mean, that's not denied. You've got the government reports that you cover in your book. But what about GMO? I mean, they're now releasing salmon into the ocean that they admit.
GMO is huge. I mean, if there was a drug that had the side effects that were shown in GMO, it would never be approved. And yet, they're saying this is food that doesn't need to be labeled in America. So this is a classic example of corporate greed and people padding the pockets of both the Republicans and the Democrats. They're in bed with Bush. They're in bed with Obama. And you know, it's a mega corporation, Monsanto, with GMO, and the data is there. In fact, Europeans looked at the data and said, no, we don't want your damn GMO. Keep it. It's like, this stuff's dangerous. I mean, we would never approve a drug if it had these side effects. Why would we approve this as food? And why would we put it out as food and not even label it and let you make the choice yourself? So it's clearly corporate greed. And I mean, GMO is one of those things that, if you're going to say it's a conspiracy theory to reduce the population of the planet, I mean, it sure looks that way to me. I don't really, I believe it's just corporate greed, but the evidence is so damning on GMO, you'd swear that it has to actually be an active scheme to kill off and sterilize much of the planet's population, make them unhealthy and make them sterile. So, I mean, it's that bad. So that's something that is pretty mind-boggling. And if there's anything out there to let me believe in conspiracy theories, I would have to say GMO is so damning that it's just hard to believe there's not an actual conspiracy to screw up the health of the world and the reproductive systems of the world through GMO.
And then people that are into world population reduction, like Bill Gates, are the ones now owning much of Monsanto, and you learn his dad was involved setting it up at the beginning. And, you know, the side effect of sterilizing all the rodents that they feed it to just so happens to be in all the major GMO crops. Undoubtedly, we've even found the documents where they planned all this, and it's just mind-blowing. Okay, let's start getting into some of the threats to humanity that we didn't cover in or any other facets that we didn't discuss, Matt, from those threats.
Okay, well, you know, climate change is something, there's people who say it's not happening. I mean, most people are older. I call it global weirding, not necessarily global warming, because it's all over the map. But, you know, there's complex systems of the planet, and humankind, with its 7 billion people, are definitely changing them. I mean, you cut trees down, it's a known fact. Each giant tree is like a water pump that pumps water moisture back into the air, and it falls as rain further downstream. And back in the 5,000 years ago, the Garden of Eden was the cradle of modern civilization, was called the Fertile Crescent. It's between the Tigris and Euphrates River, and it was like the Garden of Eden. And people grew up and multiplied, and made babies, and cut all the trees down and irrigated, and the land got salty and destroyed from the irrigation and cutting the trees down. It's now desert. It's Iraq.
Sahara.
Yeah, well, no, it's not the. Well, they did that in the Sahara too, but this is Iraq and Iran. That area was the Fertile Crescent. It was like Garden of Eden. Okay, so we cut down about almost a half of the world's, between a third and a half of the world's trees now, and most of that's in the last 30 years. So we're screwing things up. 90% of the large fish, commercial fish species in the ocean are 90% or more depleted, every single large commercial fish. So that means, and most of that's been in the last 30 years also. So like last 30 years.
And I want to back you up. They admit that, but I used to go deep sea fishing just in college and would catch 10 times the fish. We'd catch our limit of everything. Now you can hardly catch anything most of the time in the Gulf of Mexico. And when I go to a restaurant, most fish I've eaten my whole life, they don't even have them anymore.
That's correct, and that's happening. People say, oh, now I'll admit population is a huge issue, and I'll admit that we have to proactively deal with it. Now, poisoning the world with GMO is not the right way to deal with it. I mean, if that is an active conspiracy to do it, I'm certainly not in favor of that. Now, I am in favor, like there's some wonderful programs, like Brazil is a perfect example, where they've gone, and you could say, well, lots of Brazil is third world, a lot of poor people, a lot of Catholics, and yet in 10 years, they've gone from like an out-of-control population growth to about sustainable, replacement level. And they've done that through a lot of soap opera type things where, basically they show these people with large families that can't support their families, and their kids are sick and starving and all that, and people having a good life or actually keeping it under control. And so that's a good reason. I mean, not killing everybody. Just get this picture through your head. From the time Jesus walked the earth till Abraham Lincoln, that's 1,800 years, more people were added to our population in the last 10 years then from Jesus to Abraham Lincoln. And from the beginning of the new millennium till October of last year, that's just under 12 years, from 2000 to the end of 2011, we added more people to the world than lived in the entire planet 1,800 years ago when Abraham Lincoln was born. I mean, so it's, and we're killing the planet, we're soiling the nest, you know, we're doing this to ourselves. Now, nature is not kind to animals that soil the nest and screw it up. It's called overshoot and collapse. And to give you a classic example, back in the late 40s, or in the late 50s, they put like 24 reindeer on this island called St. Matthew's Island in the Bering Sea. They thought, you know, if we got a war with Russia and we got troops out there, some people get shipwrecked, they can have this nice stock of reindeer to eat off of the island. They thought it was a cool idea. So those 24 reindeer, in like 10 years' time, grew up to 6,000. 24 became 6,000 in 10 years because there's no predators. You know, lots of food, no predators, no problem, right? Well, when they turned out to 6,000, they'd overshot the carrying capacity of that little island by 3 to 1. So what did that mean? That meant they ate everything in sight. It meant all the lichen, all the plants, all the flowers gone. It meant the soil washed away and the reindeer starved. Well, those 6,000 reindeer in the next 3 years dropped down to 40. And 10 years later, the last sick, starving, lonely reindeer died on St. Matthew's Island. Not a single one left. And that island won't support large numbers of reindeer for centuries, till it, you know, for probably 600 or 1,000 years before it replenishes some of that soil. Now, that's what we're doing.
All right, listen, I'm glad we're getting into this. We're going to break here in a minute or two, and I want you to continue on this. And some listeners will say, wait a minute, you're always against eugenics and population reduction, and you say the environmental movement is a fraud, but then you've got a guest on talking about this. No, there are real environmental issues, but all the solutions from the globalists are destroy the environment, mix all the genetics, cause a genetic Armageddon, and to sterilize people. And then you find out they've blocked the third world from cleanly industrializing because they didn't want them to develop when that does reduce the population to replacement rates. So the globalists do have a helter-skelter system that is just bizarre. But I look at Texas, which had 6-foot grass, totally beautiful, but Central Texas, but only 2 inches of black dirt. And the Germans and Czechs and Poles all came in with their cows, with their goats, with their sheep. They ate it all down. It ran off. And now it's all a bunch of rocks and scrub brush. And this is an example of what bad stewardship of the land does. And so that's not really even environmentalism. That's stewardship. We'll talk about that and then get into EMP and a lot more straight ahead with our guest. Stay with us.
Do you know which 37 crucial food items are going to fly off the shelves when the next disaster hits? If you don't, you and your family may be without food and waiting in long food lines after a big disaster strikes. You would be surprised how many people don't have these food items right now. 123survivalplan.com has set up a For Patriots Only video with inside information on the 37 food items that will sell out first when the next disaster strikes. The video on 123survivalplan.com has crucial information you and your family need to prepare for any disaster, natural or man-made. And you won't have to be afraid of going hungry or being sent to a FEMA refugee camp. See the video that over 1 million other smart patriots have already seen in the last 4 months. Prepared now. Go to 123survivalplan.com and learn which 37 food items you should hoard. Easy to remember, 123survivalplan.com. Again, that's 123survivalplan.com.
Attention, information in this 1-minute message could save your life. Don't wait for the next emergency to happen. Act now to be prepared. Now, more than ever, civilians and communities must communicate with family, friends, and neighbors in the event of civil unrest, natural disasters, or other emergencies. That's why there's civildispatch.com. Civildispatch.com is a universal system that can be used for a wide array of urgent notification alerts. Weather emergencies, civil unrest, emergency responders, Amber Alerts, school or business closings, any any need-to-know situation. CivilDispatch.com is an emergency dispatch communication system, allowing anyone to quickly and easily send and instantaneously track emergency email and text alert notifications. CivilDispatch.com gives you the power of enterprise alerting without the enterprise cost. Don't find yourself unprepared. Learn more and become a member at CivilDispatch.com. That's CivilDispatch.com. Civilian Emergency Dispatch System. Peace through preparedness.
That's what it sounds like when a burglar kicks in the door of a dark house that looks like no one is home. Don't let your home be the next target. Make it look like someone is home watching television with Fake TV. Fake TV is a small electronic device that makes the same light as a real television. So from outside, it looks like someone is home watching TV. Fake TV plugs in just like a lamp on a timer, but is far more convincing to burglars. Fake TV deters burglars, costs far less than an alarm, and is highly recommended by numerous police departments. Use it anytime you're away from home. To order your Fake TV for only $34.95, go to faketv.com. or call 1-877-5-FAKE-TV. Each additional Fake TV is only $29.95, so get one for you and one for a loved one for safety, security, and peace of mind for both of you. Call 877-5-FAKE-TV or go to faketv.com. faketv.com, the burglar deterrent.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
All right, I got like 20 questions to ask our guest, and coming up about 20 minutes in the next hour, I'll give the phone number out and take calls for our guest in the last 40 minutes or so. We are carrying both of his powerful books, When Disaster Strikes and When Technology Fails, all at Infowars.com, and your purchase supports his work and our work as well. But look, I've looked at so many other societies that do expand out through empire, warfare, or environmentally and do collapse. You can go out and see some of the cultures in New Mexico and some of those cities that are basically abandoned. And now that's what we're discussing here is some of the basic threats to society. But I wanted to start shifting gears into some of the other big crises that societies face. We haven't really gotten into the economic collapse that I know you wrote about years ago that we now see beginning to unfold now. What's your take and view on that, Matt?
Well, my view is that we have an economic system based on exponential growth and based on supplying, everything to the 1% to 2% at the very top, and that system is guaranteed to collapse the world as we know it. I mean, it's like it was fine when you had an 1800 population of 1 billion people on the planet and unlimited resources. You can cut down and chop down the forests and, as much as you wanted then because the impact wasn't that big. Well, as the impact accelerates like this, now we're at the top of this peak where the impact is really huge, and it's soiling the nest, and we're close to going the same way as those reindeer on St. Matthew's Island. And it's like we can be either intelligent beings that say, wait a minute, there is no profit to be made on a dead planet, and if most of us die, it's really not something any of us want, at least no one I know wants that. And it's like we could use our brains and say, we're killing ourselves because we're killing the planet. I mean, they spent $200 million on building Biodome down in Arizona. It was a self-enclosed dome, geodesic dome, and they had 6 people in there, and they're supposed to make a self-sustaining ecosystem in there. Well, $200 million in an enclosed dome on planet Earth. This isn't on the moon or, out in space. This is on planet Earth. And they had to stop the experiment a year and a half early because the atmosphere became like 18,000 feet, and the 6 people were all losing weight and getting unhealthy and having troubles breathing, so they had to stop the experiment. So if $200 million can't keep 6 people alive inside a sealed environment, we screw up this world, it's like the Titanic. Even if you're in first class, if it goes down, it's going down, and the life rafts just aren't going to get you off this planet, at least none that I know of.
Very well said. I premiered a documentary that I'm going to show again this next Sunday in Orlando and we titled it New World Order, Diary of Madmen, and it shows in the 60s detonating hundreds of hydrogen bombs in the upper atmosphere, and the generals say, we were trying to blow holes in the atmosphere, and we thought it might ignite the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, these are crazy people.
Well, I'm not privy to that, but I do know that they blew off 3 hydrogen bombs over Kazakhstan in an EMP test in 1962 to see what happened. And we blew off ones over St. Johnston, in islands about 900 miles south of Hawaii. Now, it turned out the EMP effect was far worse over Kazakhstan because you're closer to the pole. And, when you're closer to the equator, you have less electromagnetic effect from those things because it's like the North and South poles cancel each other out at the equator. So you don't get the same kind of effect as you get further towards the poles. That's why.
All right, stay there. I want to come back and finish. I want to finish that when we come back in 1 minute, but I'm not kidding. It's actually a documentary called Trinity that was on the Discovery Channel, voiced by Shatner, and it shows them detonating these in the upper atmosphere and then firing them out into space, trying to, quote, open a path in the Van Allen radiation belt. I'm not kidding. And then it shows the inventor of the A-bomb. Well, we'll be back.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. I'm looking for people that have the wisdom to spot savings, opportunity, and recognize risk. Saving means to make money. The Cal Ben Pure Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated and twice as good as what you're using now. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous toxic detergents that give you rashes, itching sores, and deteriorating clothing called lint. If you want something better, if you want something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before. Getting a free catalog is easy by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. Take charge of your health now by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
All right, author of When Disaster Strikes and When Technology Fails, Matt Stein is our guest. I'll be giving the phone number out in the next segment. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. We're getting into an EMP test and detonating devices in the atmosphere to test it. And then I want to shift gears into your views on the financial crisis. Is the worst over? What's your take on that? But please continue, Matt.
Well, when they blew the EMP test over Kazakhstan, I guess they figured Kazakhstan kind of like Okies, they didn't care, and they had a whole bunch of generators on site. The military did, because they figured it was going to fry the local grid. Well, it actually induced so much energy in a power line that was 600 miles long, and this line was buried 2 meters, 6 feet underground. And it put so much energy into that power line that was buried underground, which you think should protect it, that it burned down the power station 600 miles away. And it fried most of those power generators that were on site, most of the backup military generators on site. Now, this was in the days before microelectronics. So in general, those electronics of that day are considered 100 times to 1,000 times more EMP resistant than modern electronics with chips that are far more sensitive to destruction from EMP, from electromagnetic pulse. Well, if you extend that result from that test, then you'd say, okay, if we did an EMP today with modern electronics, well, it's going to fry all the control systems and the grid anywhere around all the nuclear plants. So if you've got a little teeny suitcase bomb, small bomb, and someone buys a Scud missile on the black market and blows it off over northeastern United States, well, you get about a 500-mile diameter circle where it's going to cook most of the important electronics. Now, your personal electronics, your cars, most of those, contrary to popular opinion, they're going to work. But like you mentioned in the last show, you're talking grid collapse, infrastructure collapse, and so who cares if your car is working? You won't have gas, you won't be able to pump gas, you won't be able to refine gas, you won't have that. But the worst part is that those same backup sources of cooling systems and control systems for the nuclear plants that failed when the tsunami wiped them out after the earthquake in Japan that caused Fukushima to go, those things are going to fail all over the place. Now, we got 37% of all Americans living within 50 miles of a nuclear reactor. So if we had an EMP within that circle of influence of the EMP, most of the reactors are probably going to cook and start melting down within a few hours at most after that EMP. Now, solar storms.
What about the chain reaction? What about the chain reaction issue of, like we see one power station go down on the East Coast and then half the East Coast loses power? I mean, if you do have a 50-mile area that loses it, couldn't that cause chain reactions?
Oh, well, you're not talking 50 mile, you're talking 500 mile. Now, think about it. In the East Coast, the giant 2003 Northeast blackout, 50 million people. What was it caused by? Oh, terrorists? No. EMP? No. Killer trees. They had killer trees in Ohio. And the power line sagged into some killer trees and shorted out, and that caused a cascading failure. Now, if a few killer trees can cause a cascading failure to take out power to 50 million people, what do you think an EMP that fries the infrastructure over a 500 square mile distance? Obviously, the cascading effect is going to go much further. It's going to take a long time for the other parts of the country to disconnect from this huge area affected by the EMP and get itself back up and running. But meanwhile, the area that's really cooked, well, it's cooked for a long period of time, because when only 13 of the major power transformers cooked in 2003 solar storm in South Africa, they had to do rolling blackouts throughout the country for an entire year after that, because these things are so expensive. They're $20 million a piece, tens of millions. They're like 300 tons, and they're 3 years to buy a single one. They're all custom designed. So if all of a sudden you buy a bunch with an EMP, you're screwed for it'll be years to replace those parts.
We're going to come right back. I want to continue with that and other big threats, and then phone calls straight ahead with Matt Stein. Our guest. His books are both available at Infowars.com and bookstores everywhere. Stay with us, PrisonPlanet.tv.
A little over a year ago, I began to do a lot of research into why, even if I had a pretty good-sized meal, that I was still starving. And my research led me to a well-known fact that most of the soils that we grow our crops on here in the United States and across the industrialized world are almost completely depleted of almost all of the key minerals and trace elements that our bodies need to rebuild themselves, fight off cancer, and be healthy. I then searched out the best vitamin and mineral company out there and discovered Youngevity. The Youngevity products are designed to give you the real nutrition you need, and once you've got that, you don't have to eat as much to be satisfied. I've lost 37 pounds in 2 months, simply getting the vitamins and minerals I need. Check it out for yourself. It's incredible. Go to InfoWarsTeam.com today and order your first canister of Beyond Tangy Tangerine Complete Multivitamin Mineral Complex Dietary Supplement. That's InfoWarsTeam.com.
Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that the global elite are now storing non-hybrid seeds in secret storage vaults near the Arctic Circle? Did you know that in a real meltdown, non-hybrid seeds can become more valuable than silver or gold? It's true, seeds have outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full-acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com.
You've heard Alex explain how the Silver Lungs generator infuses the respiratory system with your self-produced colloidal silver solutions, yet many are unaware of the entire function of the Silver Lung system and how it has been designed to deliver your silver solutions anywhere in or on the body. My name is Mario Cifaldi, and I'm the developer of the Silver Lungs generator. Not only does the Silver Lungs system produce endless colloidal and ionic silver solutions, it also comes equipped with the proper applicators and devices needed to deliver your silver solutions directly to key target areas. This includes the eyes, ears, nose, lungs, topically to the skin, and orally for the digestive system. Be sure to watch our new 7-minute video tour of the Silver Lungs system at www.silverlungs.com to learn more about how the Silver Lungs system works. As well, we are always ready to answer any questions you may have. That's www.silverlungs.com.
From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines, the information war continues. It's Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Well, we had him on a few weeks ago, and I wanted to have him back up so we could take some phone calls and get more into threats that he's researched that our society faces. You know, I told folks that we go to war with Iraq, and I was called a fearmonger. And I told people that they would start putting TSA on the streets, and I was called a fearmonger. And I told folks they'd start putting drones in our skies, and I was called a fearmonger. And I told folks that because of the derivatives, they would implode the world economy and set up a bank of the world. And I was called a fearmonger. That's now all happening. World government's being announced. I'm just following the Globalistone white papers. And it is the different government laboratories, the Pentagon laboratories that our guest has talked about. He's got links to those on his website, in his books, where they admit that a major solar storm could destroy the power grid for much of the planet, and it would take decades to try to repair it. We're talking about power out for decades. Now, that's not fear-mongering. That's realist. That's realist. And, you know, you can say, well, not even God can sink this ship, and on its maiden voyage, the Titanic sinks. Our points are people aren't looking at this. They're not discussing it. They're not talking about it. We're going to go back to our guest in a moment. The toll-free number to join us if you have questions for Matt Stein or myself on this Tuesday edition is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. But these are, we don't screen your calls, but then when I do have a guest sometimes, folks calling on any subject. We're talking about when disaster strikes, well, we're talking about when technology fails. It's a wide area. But I'd specifically like to keep it to that subject, 800-259-9231. Also, don't forget that I have, in the last year or so, discovered the most amazing mineral, trace element, vitamin systems out there. You know, the government and the establishment media types say you need 70-something minerals and, 25-something vitamins. But the folks that have developed Beyond Tangy Tangerine and some of the other products that we promote say that you need 90 minerals and essential trace elements to really have the full effect. And that's what Beyond Tangy Tangerine has in it, the Mighty 90. But there's a lot of other great products there as well, like Rebound, healthy energy drink with all the B vitamins and the rest of it. And then there's also Pollen Burst that I love. All available at InfoWarsTeam.com. The best products out there. You know, I've really only been following this intensely for 3 months, and I've lost over 37 pounds. Everybody can see the change. People were blown away that saw me in person up in Dallas. And I'm going to continue to lose weight. And it's because they don't even advertise these as weight loss. It's just when you're getting the vitamins and minerals you need, because the food's depleted of vitamins and minerals, suddenly you're not as hungry. So it's amazing. InfoWarsTeam.com. You can sign up and become a distributor and get discounts, or you can just buy right off the site, InfoWarsTeam.com. And I want to thank all those that have been trying it out because, A, you're supporting our broadcast, what we're doing, but B, and more importantly for you, you're finding out I don't promote something unless I believe in it. I want to continue with a whole laundry list of questions I've got here for you, Matt, but what do you say to people that say that you're a fearmonger for bringing up the fact that, well, I mentioned this earlier when you first got on, Wired Magazine, your next car will drive itself. And now they're talking about these new robot cars that are on the roads across the country and robot 18-wheelers. They're talking about not letting humans drive cars because these are, quote, going to be safer. And then now they're saying the whole Air Force is going to be drone, all the combat stuff. So humans are allowing ourselves to be locked out of things now and allowing a tiny technocratic elite to control things. But then what about the other problem that as we become even more dependent and everything being centralized, we'll get to be like, you know, people in that movie WALL-E, where we're just a bunch of obese creatures that can't even brush our own teeth, and basically this giant automated system is doing it for us. What's your view on the fearmonger angle and this whole technocracy?
Well, as far as the fearmonger, I say, was it fearmongering when the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for 50 years said that New Orleans was a disaster waiting to happen, that the levees needed replacing? I mean, it's not fearmonger, it's just reality. And it wasn't a question of if the levees would fail, it was a question of when would the storm hit that would make them fail. So we're in the same boat. We've got this incredibly complex system in our world, and the more complex it gets, the easier it is to make it fail. I mean, look at the space shuttle. You know, a couple of O-rings and the space shuttle blew up, okay? Look at Fukushima. Oh, we didn't know. It's like, come on, you're on world's most seismically active place in the world, and you didn't know you might get a big earthquake and you might get a big tsunami? I mean, it's like, come on, get off it. And so we're just, and the problem is that right now we get such a linked world economy that when it goes over the cliff, it's not like the Anasazis, where when it went over the cliff, yeah, a little piece of the world starved to death and disease and famine killed them off and their cities were abandoned and, they moved elsewhere. The ones that were still alive moved elsewhere and life went on. Now it's like you take the planet down, there's no elsewhere to go. I mean, that's like that biodome I was talking about. $200 million can't keep 6 people alive for 2 years. I mean, come on, we screw this one up, we're in trouble. As far as the world economy, I can't imagine it not going down. I don't see any indicators of the magic bullet that's going to pull us out of it without a drastic change in the way we do business in the world to where actually keeping our world going in sustainable ways is the number one priority. I mean, the problem is the people who got the money, think about it. If you're a corporate CEO, your number one priority is to maximize profit. Well, what does that mean? That means going to that part of the world where it's slave wages, where there's no health care, there's no concern for the environment, and it means taking those natural resources of the world and capitalizing them as fast and as efficiently as possible for maximum profit before the next guy gets to it. Because if you don't get those fish, you don't get those trees, you don't get that oil before somebody else does, they make the money instead of you. So what does it mean?
So it's a mad rush.
Right. It's like who can get it all first before it all collapses, before we all hit the wall, before the giant train wreck happens. And we got to make the most money as fast and as efficient as possible before the train wreck happens. Well, that's great for those guys in the top 1%, but it's obviously killing the middle class in America because it means that, like Steve Jobs said, well, we used to automate, and he used to be seen as this model of a guy who still made stuff in America. And they automated iPods and iPhones, and they made them all here with automation and made in America and designed in America. Well, then they said, if we want to change things faster and quicker, changing automated systems takes a lot of time and money. But little guys in white suits in slave conditions in China, they can just, they're human beings. They're not machines.
Humans are still better than the robots. Humans are still better than the robots. Let me bring this up. The reason the reason I have to agree with you is that the Rockefellers, the real elite, are all building giant private bunkers. Major governments are building giant bunkers with reactors and underground reservoirs. The billionaires are all racing to hide out in the countryside, whether it's John Wayne's family or whether it's the guy that made Avatar, James Cameron. And I've talked to some of these elites, and they say, yeah, this is all going to collapse. And they were telling me this 5 years ago, and all moving to the middle of nowhere or small islands with electrified fences around them with machine guns. And now it's in the news they're all leaving because they believe in collapse. So the system's been so good at consolidating power. And Larry Summers, he wants to be the head of the World Bank. It's now coming out when he said, hey, ship all the toxic waste to Brazil and places. That way we'll reduce their population. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, these really are a bunch of sickos. And so, yeah, now they're trying to race out of the country because they've been so good at consolidating things. So You mentioned what happened with Fukushima. People actually said, I looked it up, a decade ago or more, hey, these are old reactors. They've been here for 30 years at that time, now 40 almost. You're storing all the waste here. It's on a major fault line. There's tsunamis. If there is an earthquake, it'll cause a tsunami.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, don't worry about it.
It was all predicted.
Exactly. All predicted, but they're fearmongers.
Right. Fearmongers. No, we got it on. You guys worry about something, then you're a fearmonger. Well, it's like, screw them. They say I'm a fearmonger. That's their right. Everyone's got their right to an opinion. They can have their opinion. I just shrug it off, and I just say, this is reality. Jesus said you got eyes and hear not, and ears and hear not, and eyes and see not. So it's like you do your best to put it out there, and that's what my books are about. I'm giving people the information they need to do their best for their family, to be prepared to deal with crisis and change in the world. And I talk about these things, and some people say, well, you're an Al Gore wind-up, because I actually believe that we're screwing up our planet. Well, go outside this winter and tell me if this is a normal winter in most parts of the country.
Well, listen, it's different. Here's the deal. There's obviously problems with the environment. Al Gore's solutions of paying him money like an indulgence or something, that's the fraud. Right. I mean, Ken Lay came up with this global tax. My point is they co-opt the environmental movement.
Right. The movement, the problem is that the momentum of business as usual and the way we did it, that got the people in the 1% to the being in the 1%, they have a huge stake in keeping that machine going the way it's been going. Problem is, it's killing the rest of us and killing the world. So,
but the 1% know it's not working. I mean, the 1/10 of 1%, the real elite, they're digging in like it's the end of the world, calling us kooks if we warn people.
But they got the money to do it, and we don't. I mean, I'm in a situation where if I'd spent them, if instead of writing my book, I just went out and worried about myself and bought the land and built the off-grid thing. But instead I racked up debt while I was writing my book and still haven't even broken, 15 years working on it, still haven't broken even because of the debt I built up in the beginning. And my first publisher was bankrupt and never paid me, so that didn't help. But people say I'm in it for the money. It's like, no. You asked me why I did this? Well, back in 1997, I'd had a 20-year practice of mostly daily prayer and meditation, not fanatic about it. I'm an MIT guy. I don't normally see and hear things, but I just made a generic request for guidance and inspiration. And on that morning, I got a bomb dropped in my lap. I received in my head instantaneously a pictorial storyboard outline for this mammoth project that eventually became my first book, When Technology Fails, to guide people to deal with these coming times. I didn't say, God talked to me today. I'm going to go out and do it. No,
everybody who has instincts or an inner compass knows that things are wrong. I want to talk about that with you, then we'll go to phone calls on the other side. Everybody who's tuned in and has discernment can feel the danger, and now we're seeing it manifest.
You don't need me to tell you that humanity is in a deep crisis. Everyone can feel it. We know a tectonic struggle is now taking place between the forces of freedom and those who love darkness, bondage, and enslavement. Yes, my friends, evil is rising. But take heart. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Recently, New World Order operative Hillary Clinton admitted they're losing the info war.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
The globalists are scared. They've overreached. The future of the info war is in your hands. Join PrisonPlanet.tv. Download the thousands of special video reports, ebooks, and more, and get them out to everyone you know. Continue to spread the word about the broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and every other globalist propaganda platform. We are going to use their system against them. The info war now goes into high gear.
HempUSA.org has a revolutionary wonder food for detoxing the body and rebuilding the immune system. Microplant powder can help unclog arteries and soften heart valves while removing heavy metals, virus, fungus, bacteria, and parasites. Plus, it cleans and purifies the blood, lungs, stomach, and colon. Keep your body clean with Microplant powder. Visit us at HempUSA.org or call 908-691-2608 today.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com. And now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. If you can increase brain health, the rest of the body is a no-brainer. Bio Superfood has 0 toxicity and is safe for you and your family. Learn more and order your Bio Superfood formulas at BioAge.com, spelled BIOAGE.com, BioAge.com, or call 877-288-9116. That's 877-288-9116. BioAge, the age of advanced organics.
In the past, I've taken a lot of different vitamins, some through health food stores, some that friends recommend.
Colleen talking about her experience with Super C-Veg.
And with the Super C-Veg, I was seeing a lot better results.
Super C-Veg with Vita D and C-Cal is the most powerful dietary food supplement in the world today, and nothing else comes close.
Super C-Veg is a whole food that makes me feel good.
Think of Super C-Veg as the unvitamin.
I have taken other things, and they just didn't work. This seems to work for me.
And Super C-Veg comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee.
Store-bought vitamins do not have the supplement and the full, whole feeling I have from Super C-Veg.
Get 15% off your first purchase on our website, supercveg.com. That's super, SEAVEG.com. At checkout, enter coupon code UNVITAMIN or place your order at 866-C-VEG. That's 866-732-8344. Eating Super C-Veg daily is eating right.
Okay, this is a little short 6-minute segment. We're going to come back in the next long segment, the final segment after that, and go to Janice, Merrill, Otter, Michael, Ty, and others that are patiently holding here today for Matthew Stein, our guest. You know, I have had things in my life happen, like where I have a dream of being mugged and tell people about the dream, and then 6 months later walk around a corner and the guy wearing the exact same shirt and the same thing happens to me. There's a lot of stuff going on in this world we don't understand. Or somebody has a feeling not to walk out in the road and all of a sudden a car comes shooting by really fast. Anybody who doesn't, now they've proven in scientific studies, you can look it up. I even saw, Big Scientific American, I think last month had that as one of its top stories, is that there is a sixth sense. But expanding on that, that's called your gut. You know, any good police detective will tell you they've got that. But continuing, you're saying, just deep down, you knew something was going on, you investigated it, but you've got the government's own reports that you quote in your piece, in one of your books, where, in fact, list some of those reports where they admit that a solar flare or EMP would do the things you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have some of the top scientists in the world who urged me to write my article, 400 Chernobyls, that you posted on your website, and it's on my website, whentechfails.com. And they're saying, Matt, so far, since 2008, Congress has been voting on on different bills to deal with the EMP solar storm problem, where we're basically open to the end of the world as we know it for a guaranteed solar event that's guaranteed to happen. It happens every, average 75 to 100 years, but they could happen 2 5 years apart and 2 100 years apart.
Sure, but you list some of the government's own reports, and I'm on the road, I don't have your book in front of me. What are some of those reports? Well,
one is Meditech report. It's the influence of geomagnetic storms on the U.S. grid, and that's there's a link to that report at the end of my 400 Chernobyls in the footnotes, and that's one of the storms, and that's John Kappenman. And that was done at Meditech under the auspices of the Oak Ridge National Labs, and it was third-party checked by the by another national laboratory down there in New Mexico. Also took a look at it, and they verified the response. And basically, it's saying.
And I know the Pentagon's put out reports. They put out reports as well, so they know all of this, and they really just don't even have a plan to deal with it.
No, they have a plan. They have a plan. There's the EMP Commission, which was a bipartisan commission of scientists and military personnel and various top-notch people put together. And so Dr. William Graham, I keep wanting to call him Billy Graham, but that's a different guy, different doctor. Anyway, William Graham, PhD, he was Reagan's science advisor, and he's said he agrees 100% with my Forerunner Chernobyl analysis, and he's totally behind me on that. And he hasn't succeeded in getting them to make the things. They have a plan for about $1 billion. They could protect our grid with this new technology.
Sure, what I meant is it hasn't been adopted. They plan to ship.
They haven't done a damn thing. They haven't actually, other than talk about it and think about and vote on it and vote it down, they haven't done a damn thing to actually implement it. So we're still the same sitting duck that they were when they came out with that EMP report years ago. And the Meditech report was 2010. The EMP Commission started doing stuff 2004, 2006, 2008, 2010. And the more they look at it, the more they verify that we're a sitting duck. We're waiting for the end of the world as we know it, and we're not doing it. For the price of a single stealth bomber, they could fix this. They could put backup fuel supplies for a year at every nuclear installation and backup bunker, an EMP-hardened container, with backup cooling system and power generating systems to keep the cooling going. See, when you turn off a nuclear power plant, it's not like flipping a switch. You got to keep those rods cool for 3 to 5 years or they'll melt down. You don't keep that water cooled and flowing, then they're going to melt down. There's going to be a problem. And not only that...
And if there's a breakdown of society, we're looking at 400 Chernobyls.
Right, you're looking at 400 around the world.
But they don't care. Like you said, already 9 out of 10 reactors are already leaking one way or another. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, these reactors were originally designed with like a 20-year lifespan, and now we got 40 years. And I know in Vermont Yankee, it's leaking like a sieve into the groundwater, and everybody in the state wants to shut it down, and they voted to shut it down. But the judicial system is saying, no, you can't do it. It's free enterprise. They get the right to keep running that reactor that's old and decrepit and leaking radioactive fluid into the ground. They still have the right to keep running it. It's like, well, wait a minute. This thing is like way beyond its design life, and it's leaking like a sieve, and we don't have a right to shut it down? It's like, come on. It's asking to kill us all. I mean, it's like they're saying the buck is more important than the genetic mutations. You seen those pictures of those kids from Chernobyl? I mean, amazing.
Yeah, let's talk about it. On the other side, then go to phone calls. It's just off the charts insane. It's a death wish collectively. We'll be back. Stay with us.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
I've been telling you about eFoods Direct for a while now. Here are my top 10 reasons to stock up on food from eFoods Direct. Number 10, the food I get from eFoods Direct tastes great. Number 9, the eFoods meals are easy to prepare. 8, eFoods Direct delivers the food right to my front door. 7, most of these meals cost less than $2. 6, with their large variety, I can eat it every day. 5, I always have access to high quality and delicious food. Number 4, eFoods products don't spoil, so I never waste any food. 3, eFoods uses only safe, healthy ingredients. Number 2, I have my own food supply and don't depend on the grocery store. And the number 1 reason I promote eFoods Direct is they build special offers just for my listeners. Folks, don't wait. Get prepared now. We all need to be self-sufficient. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 and ask for the Alex Jones special. Call eFoods Direct at 800-409-5633 or efoodsdirect.com/Alex. I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com.
When you're out on the road, the last place you want to be is on the road. But if the unfortunate happens, you'll be glad you were wearing diamond gussets.
There's a place down in Tennessee where they make blue diamond gusset jeans. They so pride in every stitch, guarantee you love the way they fit. They put a diamond gusset in the crotch where you need it most. Blue diamond gussets got it, others don't.
We turn jeans inside out. Diamond gusset jeans. Made in the USA with unparalleled quality. Our Defender motorcycle jeans combine gusset comfort with Kevlar protection, so you can ride all day with confidence. Order yours at gusset.com. Diamond gusset jeans got it, others don't.
We are back. You have found it. The tip of the spear in the info war, covering every subject and angle you can imagine in an attempt to get humanity to awaken, to take control of our destiny. Our guest was making a point right before we went to break. I wanted him to be able to finish that point he was making about genetic mutations, infertility from radiation. Aaron Dykes brought an article in about a month ago. I didn't even know this was true. He showed me several mainstream articles admitting that 9 out of 10 reactors worldwide are leaking one way or another. There's now every week in the U.S. or Canada, I see articles about big leaks, disasters. It's like, because they're getting to be 35, 40 years old. Imagine when they're 50 years old, and they're only supposed to go 20 years. And that radiation just eats holes in everything, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, these things are like old, cheaply built condos or something built in the 60s that are just falling apart. And they're built on fault lines, you name it. Going back to Matt Stein. Matt, finish that point, and we're going to go to phone calls.
Okay. Roughly 240 people died short-term right after Chernobyl. But the Russian study, the Russian scientific, the big national Russian science study, looks like about 1 million people died long-term from Chernobyl, and 3 million people lost their health. They basically got Chernobyl AIDS, acquired immune syndrome. People, the Chernobyl necklace, you walk through the villages, it's all over. 3 out of 4 people have this necklace of tumors around the neck. Children are born with no legs. Children are born with heads that are this long. I mean, and people who think I'm fear-mongering, this is the reports right there that verify the information in my 400 Chernobyls article. This is government stuff, scientific studies. This is not some fear-mongering weirdo just pulling stuff out of you-know-where.
Listen, I only mentioned that because I only mentioned that because I saw a guy on my Twitter at twitter.com/Real Alex Jones, where I'm posting photos and videos of when I'm on the road, saying, "Oh, you're just a fearmonger, Alex. Everything's fine." So I was presenting that to you. Most people are actually starting to wake up. These are guys that are playing violins as the Titanic goes down. But again, what about the elite? Why don't they care that reactors are melting down and having problems everywhere? It's crazy.
I think many of them do care. That's the thing, is when you say the elite, I don't think they're all in one little group. But I think what bonds them is that what got them there at that top 1% is the way we've done things. And it's also what's gotten our planet to the edge of the cliff and the abyss. So the problem is that those people on top have a huge stake in keeping it going the way it's been going. But they also know we're getting near the cliff. So it's kind of like, well, I can't lose my money and my power, so I got to keep going the way I've been going, but I'm also getting near this edge of this cliff, so I'm not sure what to do. So I think you mentioned earlier the inner compass, that God gave each and every one of us a link the gut feel, the intuitive, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, that inner compass is in each and every one of us, and we all know we're in trouble, like serious trouble. And the problem is that most of us just don't have a clue what to do about it. And so certainly on a small point, from on your personal level, well, you need to have your preparedness act together. And that's what, like, when disaster strikes is basically what you need to know, do, and have on hand to keep your family safe. But then on a larger level, we know we need more than just ourselves. We need a community, because it takes a whole village to survive this kind of collapse. And on the even larger level, it's like we know we got to change the way we're doing things in the world, and we got to get the power out of the global elites, take it back from the people, and say, let's not stop the insanity, and let's do things right so we don't collapse this planet and all perish like the Titanic going down. We're on the Titanic right now, and it's sinking.
Well, you're right. I want to go to phone calls here now. In fact, let me pull up my call list. Again, I'm here on the road. Let's talk to Janice in Texas and then others. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi there, Alex. Hi, Matthew.
Hi.
My inner compass is working, and I've had this idea for a few days. We're embroiled in a water war in the hill country here. But I started thinking over that, and I thought about, and this is a question to you, Matthew, and Alex as well. But what if Ron Paul did something like unprecedented, like appointed his entire cabinet? Because you look through history, and it's Kissinger, it's Holder, it's Lisa Jackson from the EPA. It's all these bad appointments that have caused, like, everything to really go bad. You can't just, like, expect one person to do everything. So I just made a little short list just off the top of my head. Lieutenant Anthony Schaefer as vice president, because he, nobody could accuse Ron Paul of not having good foreign policy because he could straighten that out. Bruce Fines as attorney general. Rand Paul, secretary of state. And I was thinking of you, Matthew, is heading up the EPA to be able to save us from this horrible thing. I mean, if it's only a few $1 billion, they give that.
Well, sure. We'd first have to get Ron Paul elected. Janice, do you have a question or comment for our guest?
Well, maybe he could put some input into the campaign and make people vote for Ron Paul or whatever.
Sure, I hear you. I appreciate your call. Let me just throw this in here. Let me just throw something in here at everybody.
Sure.
Again, here's an example. We're told that we need to use less water because it's for the environment, and they basically take locals' water and give it to some city, like she's talking about in Central Texas. Or we see other examples of where they say they're doing one thing for the environment, but it's really not for the environment. And, I mean, do you have any comments about the presidential election there, Matthew?
Well, my main comments is that the people who own the Republicans and own the Democrats are still keeping the system going. I honestly think it's going to take an Arab Spring. I'm not sure that Ron Paul is the answer. The machine is taking us towards the cliff, and I think it's going to be either. Most people seem to feel like it's going to take a massive shakeup, and it's either going to all fall apart or it's going to be so scary that the people in power will finally say, we've got to really change it because we're clearly headed for the abyss and we've got to make the change. And I don't care who put money into my account to get me elected, I've got to do the right thing. And so my sense is we're going to have to get slapped around really bad. Like when I ask people, I speak to hundreds and hundreds of people, and I ask them to raise their hands. And I'm unusual because I speak to people on the right and on the left and in the center. I'm not just like all speaking to the left or always to the right. And I ask people, regardless of political, how many people think that no matter what we do, we're headed for the cliff? And it used to be 1 out of 3 people would raise their hand, but now 2 out of 3 people think that no matter what we do, we're headed for the cliff. Then I ask people, how many people think everything's okay? And I've never seen a hand come up yet when I ask that question. If they think it's okay,
just 10 years ago,
what we're doing.
And just 10 years ago, a lot of people thought everything was okay. I want to go back to calls right now, but I just want to make this point. Here's another example of fake environmentalism. George Monbiot, all these globalists, they say the answer is more reactors. and that's an environmentalist move, is to build more reactors everywhere. I'm not against science, technology. I'm not against nuclear power if they could ever do it right. The problem is they never do it right. It's always causing problems, and now they've set the precedent to have meltdowns and then still not get in trouble. I mean, what do you think about the so-called environmentalists out there promoting more reactors and like small neighborhood reactors?
Yeah, I was blown away with George Monbiot, to be honest with you, because I really didn't expect it out of him. But there's plenty of other guys who are saying the opposite. It's just that because he's saying right there what the industry wants, they cherry pick. So they're going to pick this guy who's a, quote, environmentalist and say, look, George Monbiot's in favor of it. And they approved the first reactor approved in America in like 30 years, got approved last week. So it's kind of mind-blowing that you can have a Fukushima and assume that it's just going to kill the industry. And it's like, no, there's 442 in the world right now, and there's 600 on the books. There's another 150 on the books, and they're starting to approve them. I mean, you would think Fukushima,
well, I mean, it's mass delusion.
Would be a nail in the coffin. Yeah.
Well, it's the old saying. It's the old saying of the complexity of the world is starting to outstrip human control and understanding of it. But it's like they wouldn't let the troops use DU until 1991, and now they don't even do any type of hazmat, decon with it. They just say use it, it's fine, even though they know it's a death sentence. I mean, it's a mass lunacy has hit us. Merrill in Utah, you're on the air with Matthew Stein. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Alex. I really appreciate you taking my call. I got cut off Sunday. But I've got a question for Matt. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if Matt would support the citizens getting together and making a petition.
Well, there's lots of petitions. Petition to do what?
Yeah, sir, you're on the air.
Oh, sorry about that. A petition that would kind of force the government maybe to do something about this problem. I mean, it's only a couple $2 billion, as you stated.
Well, they have a bill in Congress, and they... I'm telling, one of the reasons I wrote the article and been on the radio is I'm telling people, talk to your congressman. I'm not totally convinced that it's not possible to do something, because I honestly can't imagine a globalist or anyone being in favor of not doing something if they understood it. But there's an example of the lack of understanding. Is like Newt Gingrich goes on the phone and talks about EMP as if he's an expert, and yet he made statements that are totally false according to the EMP report. So it's clear, here's a guy running for president and hasn't read the report. So I'm saying that the kind of misinformation that he has, a guy running for president, is indicative of what's happening all over. As people get a 5-minute...
What is the $1 billion plan? Just to recap it, is to build at certain sites, what, hardened transformers that won't be blown out?
Well, $1 billion will put these new style vacuum tube switches on each of these large power transformers the grid's totally dependent upon, that are custom made and take 3 years to get a single one built and in place. And it would protect them. It would be a very rapid switch that protects them in the event of an EMP or solar storm or some grid anomaly that endangers these transformers. For another $1 billion, they could have the EMP hardened containers with spare parts to keep the cooling systems flowing in the event of a long-term grid failure, or the event of an electronic failure from an EMP, so that the cooling systems keep flowing. Now, it's not a perfect system. There is no perfect.
They're saying
system.
Fukushima is going to cost hundreds of billions. Imagine if they would have had more backups there.
That's correct. If they'd had like the bunkers on hand, if they'd had the fuel on hand, if they'd had stuff on hand that they could have switched out in a hurry. But, say they had a 10-point earthquake centered right there, well, that would take it all down no matter what anyways. But so nothing's perfect, but they certainly could have done a lot better than they did.
Otter and Mash, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Greetings. You're on the road, and I'm hoping that you're doing well. I know you're not on your treadmill as often as you've been.
No, I'm not. What's on your mind? You got a question for our guest?
Yes. Well, actually, not so much a question as total agreement. It's been a good while since I've had the opportunity. I'm hearing and agreeing pretty much across the board with what we are in dialogue at this point in time. I think that, as a joke, hey, Have you got, what is it? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting too old. I just can't remember everything all the time. Job application? I'd work for you. So if you need someone in New England, I happen to be in the hub of the globalist vacation land, sitting out here on the vineyard. So, yeah, let's put all that aside. I'm sorry. What we're talking about is deep. What we're talking about is vast. What we're talking about can be overcome through our positivity, through our prayers. And I thank you for what you did earlier. I hope to get through to you. I'm thrilled with Rob D. The nightly thing has been a wonderful situation. Personally, I haven't been able to fulfill, if you see anything of my attempts with your systems to infuse them. It hasn't been easy. You know, we're in 3 years of depression. So there's like 10,000 things we can talk about. You are so much more an expert than most, if not all of us. I can't really say anything at this second.
All right. Well, Honor, good to hear from you. No, Honor, I hear what you're saying. I understand. It's just it is massive what we're facing. Michael in Florida, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, it's Michelle, and I have a quick question about if we had an EMP or a solar flare, what would that do to our, if you had a solar generator, or would it hurt the batteries or the solar panels themselves? And if so, what could we use for some kind of a power source?
A solar flare would not touch them. A solar flare would not affect your local renewable energy system. An EMP may well cook parts of your solar system, probably not your solar panels themselves, but quite likely it would screw up your inverter, your power inverter. So what you can do is store some spare critical parts like the power inverter, the electronic controllers that are digitally processed inside in a steel enclosure, like wrap them in a garbage bag, put aluminum foil around them, it's called a double Faraday cage, and then put another garbage bag around it, and then put it inside of, say, a galvanized garbage can. And you can store any spare critical parts like a backup shortwave radio, a backup solar inverter, things like that, to protect against EMP. Now, again, solar storm
it's good to have,
does not really do that.
Sure. But it's good to have two of critical parts anyways, in case society collapses, you've got backups.
Certainly. In case of long-term collapse, I mean, you won't be able to go out and buy this stuff because it depends on high-technology factories to make it. So you're totally correct. Any kind of spares you can have will be valuable for yourself as well as for trade and barter in a collapse-type situation.
Michelle, anything else?
Yeah, the batteries themselves will be fine, though, right, you're saying?
Correct. The batteries can handle all that. It's more like the sparky things that happen from an EMP tend to fry chips. Now, the most recent chips in the last 5 years, if they're built to the EU standards, then the last 5 years chips built to the EU standards actually have onboard electrostatic protection built into them. So they're much more resistant to an EMP type event. The big problem with EMP2 is that any digital electronics is controlled by long runs of wire, like our big factories and our SCADAs, our remote sensing control and data acquisition systems. All of those things, those long runs of Ethernet cable that connect stuff together in industrial processes, those act like big antennas to suck in the energy from an EMP or a solar storm. So they're much more susceptible to failure in the event of either EMP or solar storm. Your small personal electronics are not so susceptible to failure.
All right. Good questions, Michelle. Thank you so much for actually asking our guests a question, because we don't screen calls. We have great callers, but it's almost always on another subject. We could have Ron Paul on and take calls. They bring something else up, which is fine, but just didn't get to the points. More calls straight ahead. Stay with us.
Folks, have you lost your power and wanted to simply flip a switch to get the lights back on? If so, this is going to be the most important message you'll ever hear, because there's never been a better time to get ready for the winter power outages ahead. Here's why. Solar-powered generators are now available from our friends at Solutions from Science, one of our oldest sponsors. Their emergency backup systems provide life-saving electrical power when you need it most. Unlike gas generators, a solar generator runs quietly, emits no fumes, and produces electricity from the sun. It's like having an electric power plant running quietly in your own home. Whether it's ice storms, brownouts, or blackouts, you'll never have to suffer through painful power outages again. When the power goes out this winter, you'll be ready with a solar-powered generator from Solutions from Science. Go to mysolarbackup.com for more information. That's mysolarbackup.com or call 877-327-0365.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy-free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganics.com, spelled TerraGanix.com, Terraganics.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
Will I have garlic breath after I take Ali C?
We get that question all the time about the world's best garlic extract, Ali C. And the answer is, Ali C contains stabilized allicin, nature's antimicrobial agent, and the active ingredient in crushed garlic, but will not give you garlic breath. Scientifically proven in double-blind studies, using low doses of allicin greatly reduces the number, severity, and duration of common colds. Our powerful Ali C contains 300 milligrams of stabilized allicin. Just 1 tablet of Ali C is equivalent to 40 garlic cloves. It's effective against asthma, MRSA, bacterial, fungal, and viral infections, and helps lower high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Plus, it's a natural mosquito repellent. Boosts resistance to infection with nature's best garlic extract, Ali C. For more information and to order Ali C, call 877-888-7126 or go to garlichealthproducts.com. That's 877-888-7126 or garlichealthproducts.com. Fight back with Ali C.
Bring me in, yeah.
This is the end, beautiful friend.
Yeah, it's either the end of the New World Order and this global governance system run by a bunch of crazies, or it's the end of us. Well, they're trying to start war with Iran. Russia and China are threatening to counter-strike. Governments killed 260-plus million people last century alone. It's called democide. We want to stop that from being repeated or even bigger this century. Let's go to Josh in Oregon. You're on the air with Matthew Stein. Go ahead, Josh.
Hi, Dad. Great interview.
Hi, Josh.
And,
how you doing?
All right. And Alex Jones, thank you for all you've done for humanity. You're a wonderful person, and I support every single thing you've done for as long as you've been on the air.
Well, thank you, sir.
I had a question and kind of a comment as well for the interview. One was, I think, Alex, you might be aware that obviously our government is clearly in the know about upcoming events and usually doesn't seem to tell us about them if they're not outright perpetrating them. Clearly, from the data I've gathered, they are aware of a coming cataclysm, a massive cataclysm. I've seen some mention of it through your website about polar shifts, and there is clearly, from what I've seen, it looks to be polar shifts already slowly occurring on our planet.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of experts. I bet your dad knows more than I do, but the polls are always moving a little bit, but they have been moving faster than they were previously, but they've only been recording them, for 60, 70 years. I have looked into this, but I don't think anybody knows. What I do know is elites and governments are building seed vaults, armored compounds, DNA vaults, RNA vaults. The elites are digging in like they think it's the end of the world. Now, whether that's the financial collapse or World War III, or they know something we don't know, let's ask your dad. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I don't have an opinion on the pole shift, but I do know that from the trends, like my article, The Perfect Storm, those trends are guaranteed to collapse business and the world as we know it. In my opinion, as a scientist and engineer, if a graph is headed straight for the bottom, you don't do something different, it's going to hit bottom. Now, whether the poles are going to shift or not, I don't know. That's a very long-scale geological event. You know, I don't claim to have that special knowledge. I do claim that I was shown in a vision in 1997 and directed to write a book to help people be more sustainable and self-reliant and handle the collapse of society and high technology as we know it. But I was not privy to the knowledge of exactly what was fomenting that problem, that issue, that big collapse. I wasn't given that. A friend of mine is an ex-military guy, uses a good saying. He says God works on a need-to-know basis, because he was crying and wondering why his life had fallen apart and praying to God, like, why didn't you tell me and show me? And he said, well, I saved you from a crazy wife, but, not in the way you appreciate it. And it's like, okay, I get the information I need to know, but not what I want to know. And I've been shown this collapse coming long before most people were aware of it. And but I haven't been shown exactly what causes it. I don't have that information and don't claim to know it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people talk about just information. I mean, a lot of it you could say, too, is the subconscious mind is hundreds of times more powerful than the conscious mind. And
I agree.
And it basically can come, I mean, that's like women's intuition or whatever. I'm not trying to say, what happened to you. All I know is, the issue I just raised, the elites are digging in like I've never seen them before. And that's probably just the economic collapse and the warfare stuff, the resource wars.
It could well be. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall, and they've got the money, so they're dealing with it.
All right, we're going to come right back with our guest and more of your phone calls. Anything else, Josh, from Oregon?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if they were aware of such an event, it could cause worldwide massive earthquakes, which would eliminate the majority of the nuclear plants on the New Madrid fault line, which would indeed cause a cataclysm due to the earthquake much larger than
You're right.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, folks. This is Alex Jones. I'm looking for people that have the wisdom to spot savings, opportunity, and recognize risk. Saving means to make money. The Cal Ben Pure Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated and twice as good as what you're using now. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous toxic detergents that give you rashes, itching sores, and deteriorating clothing called lint. If you want something better, if you want something you've never had before, you have to do something you've never done before. Getting a free catalog is easy by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com. Take charge of your health now by calling 800-340-7091 or see Calvin on the web at 5starsoap.com.
Coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
We now take you live to the Central Texas Command Center in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to the Alex Jones Show.
On the road, and tomorrow I'll talk about my experiences talking to 700 plus listeners at the Capacity Crowd in Dallas. I'll be in Orlando this upcoming Sunday. Looks like it's going to sell out as well, so You need to get your tickets at Infowars.com/events. You notice I've been a bit more subdued today than usual. That's because I just was sick yesterday and this morning. Hadn't had any kind of stomach thing or illness in about 3 years, but I am back in the saddle today, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank Mike Adams for doing the show yesterday. We just talked to Josh, who got in on the show, son of our guest, Matt Stein. We're having to hurry up now here at the end. Kim in New York, quick question or comment for our guest.
Yes, I have a question for Matt. There was a program on Discovery Channel, Perfect Disaster Solar Storm, where they showed the scenario of possibly just powering down the entire grid in a particular region, and they said if they did that, when it hit, it wouldn't affect it. I mean, is that a possible solution? Would they have enough warning, and would that be feasible?
It is possible. They do have satellites that watch the sun. Problem is that it's like building, a huge amount of money lost to power down and extremely difficult to get the grid going again once it's lost power. So the chances that they'll coordinate it successfully and make that happen are pretty slim, and it's not something that they can practice because, like I said, it's so expensive and it'll cause grid collapse and widespread economic problems all over the country to do that. So,
yeah, a couple trees knocked out half the East Coast.
You got it. And trees in Oregon in 97, they had sagging power lines on a hot day, and when all the AC conditioners are running, knocked it out from 2 provinces in Canada all the way to Mexico, wiped out for much of a day. And, it was 105 degrees. My brother and sister-in-law were driving down the Central Valley and couldn't get a drink, couldn't fill their tank up with gas, couldn't buy a Coke, could do nothing. And that was from trees.
Anybody who's been in New York or London or L.A., and looking out your hotel window at the millions of people, if that doesn't creep you out, and if your instincts don't tell you this is dangerous as you know what, something's wrong with you. These mega cities, especially if they collapse, look out. Good question, Kim. Anything else? Okay, she's gone. Thank you, Kim. John in Wisconsin, you're on the air with our guest. Almost out of time. Go ahead.
Hello, Alex and Matt. Thanks for covering this. And you spoke of, each of you actually today has spoke of having a vision. And I have this happen to me probably once every 2 weeks, whether it's NDAA or the new flu strains that they're concocting here in Madison, Wisconsin. And I think it's very important for people to pay attention to those. Turn off your TV at night. Your regular network TV, and read an article on Infowars.com or watch something on the YouTube channel for Alex Jones Show. And kudos to having the best guest in independent talk radio. My question is, now I think I heard it here on the show, that the Pentagon is hiring for people with psychic abilities, and and in that vein, and talking about the corona mass ejections, I was listening to an interview with Major Ed Dames, I think his name was, the most prominent, well, we all know who he is, and he was speaking about his sinking feeling and having almost the exact same impressions that you have had, and he's talking about all these nations being across oceans and going to war and on the brink of World War III, and then everyone has to retreat back to their home countries, and all he could pick up was everyone's looking up at the sky. Do you have any comments on that?
I haven't seen it directly, but I have heard the remote viewers have seen a lot of stuff coming from space. I mean, there's people talking about Nibiru. I have been quite skeptical about that. But as far as solar flares, causing mass problems throughout the world, I think that that's a guaranteed given that that's going to happen. Just a matter of when.
All right. We got to end it right there. Thank you so much, Matt Stein. Books available at Infowars.com. We'll be back with the rest of the transmission, and we'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central Time. Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv are the websites. And as for the visions, I'll keep those visions to myself. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils that contain no useless dyes, perfumes, deodorants, or antibacterials. Your risk is the hundreds of hazardous